One Piece, I became a reporter for Morgan's news agency and met Stussy at the beginning. Chapter 1. In Barity Restaurant, a young man wearing glasses and holding a camera was taking photos of Barity Restaurant's owner, Redfoot Zeph, and the chefs. With a click, the white light of the flash flashed, and the young man smiled and gave everyone an OK sign. Zeph and the many chefs in the restaurant were busy again. Sanji came up to him with a curious look on his face and asked, "Is our Barity Restaurant so famous now? Even a reporter from the news headquarters like you came to this small East Blue Sea to interview." The young man corrected Sanji seriously. "Intern, I'm just a poor intern reporter." The young man's name is Li Luo, he is an intern reporter at the headquarters of the Pirate World News Agency. He has another identity, that is, a transmigrator. In his previous life, he was just a poor little writer in the UC editorial department, yes, that UC shock department. His dream is to record a piece of history standing at the place closest to the historical truth. It's a pity that he lived in a peaceful era in his previous life, and there were only those trivial neighborhood affairs every day, relying on shocking headlines to attract people's attention. In the end, he died suddenly and gloriously in a high-intensity position. When he woke up, he found that he had traveled to the pirate world and became a reporter for a branch of the East Blue Sea News Agency. As everyone knows, reporters in the pirate world are a high-risk profession. The ubiquitous sea kings and pirates everywhere make it extremely difficult for reporters to interview. So many reporters are actually only responsible for he is responsible for interviewing, reporting, and publishing news on the island where he lives. Morgan's news agency is actually a huge intelligence network throughout the entire pirate world. He will screen the news submitted from all over the world and store it as intelligence, and selectively publish some as news. So reporters who can interview around the world are not just weaklings who are powerless. Morgan's of the news agency can be one of the dark emperors of the underground world. How could he do it without force? So, when Li Luo found himself in the pirate world, he became excited, especially when he learned that it was the 1521st year of the Sea Circle calendar before Luffy set out to sea. The era of pirates is in the midst of an impending huge wave, which makes Li Luo even more excited. So Li Luo decisively joined Morgan's news agency and became a branch reporter of the news agency. Relying on his experience in his previous life, Li Luo finally succeeded in making a name for himself a year later and got a position as an intern reporter at the headquarters. This time, he has applied to Morgan's to become a formal reporter at the headquarters of the news agency. As long as he becomes a reporter at the headquarters, he will be protected by the title of the news agency and have a section of his own in the daily newspaper. And this is exactly what he wanted. The reason is nothing else, because he also came with a golden finger, the war correspondence system. Only the news published can get shocking points. The more people read it, the more shocking the news, the more rewards you will get. Shocking points can be used for lotteries, and the prizes won are everything, not just the 6 styles of the Navy, domineering, and devil fruits in the world of One Piece. The bloodline limit, ninjutsu, and senjutsu in the world of Naruto, the fist, slash, ghost, and walk in the world of death. Nothing is impossible. All of this needs shock points to support it. As long as you become a reporter at the headquarters and have your own column, it will bring you a huge advantage in earning shock points. After all, shock points are not only based on the number of viewers, but also include the comprehensive evaluation of the viewer's degree of authenticity of the news, the degree of shock they feel about the news, and the reader's strength. So in recent years, Li Luo has not relied on his advantage of being familiar with the plot to publish some shocking reports. One is that many secrets involve too many forces, and Li Luo does not have enough strength to deal with the enemy. Another is that as an unknown reporter stationed on the island, if I send out a shocking report like Ace is the son of the Pirate King, not many people will believe it. Most of them will just laugh it off as gossip, wasting a chance to explode. Another is the mysterious novice gift package in my system backpack. Novice gift pack, open and get a prize of A grade or above, activation progress 9800/10,000. That's right, for the past year, I have been trying to save shock points just to open this novice gift pack. Now there are only 200 shock points left to open this novice gift pack. And if Li Luo writes those small reports normally, maybe he needs 10 or so news. But this time Li Luo came to Barity to solve 2 problems, the novice gift pack and the promotion to the headquarters reporter. Because Barity has enough news points to solve these 2 problems at one time, one is Sanji, his identity of the Vinsmoke family. The second is Hawkeye, The Meeting with the Future Pirate King Monkey D. Luffy. Chapter 2. After taking the photo, Li Luo returned to his seat again. There was a sumptuous meal prepared by the Barity restaurant, A&D. A beautiful woman with short curly blonde hair, wearing a white hat with flowers, a pink dress and a white shawl, with an elegant appearance and good looks. If a veteran fan of One Piece can recognize the beauty in front of him, she is the intelligence officer of Cypherpole Aegis Zero, a secret intelligence agency directly under the Celestial Dragons. Stussy, the Queen of Happy Street. As the head of CP0 who is responsible for intelligence, why did she appear in the East Blue Sea? Li Luo was naturally confused. But this did not prevent Li Luo from launching an offensive against her. After all, he was not going to use the shock point lottery before opening the novice gift package. It can be said that he was a weak chicken. If he had a CP0 as a female companion, his safety would be greatly guaranteed. As for age, Li Luo believed in the words of his previous life, young people do not know the good of rich women, and mistakenly regard girls as treasures. A woman 3 years older than you will hold gold bricks. A woman 30 years older than you will give you a country. A woman 300 years older than you will give you elixirs. A woman who is 3,000 years older than her husband is ranked among the immortals. A woman who is 30,000 years older than her husband is fed by the Queen Mother. A woman who is 300,000 years older than her husband stands at the door of the Buddha. A woman who is 3 million years older than her husband has the final say in the 3 realms. A woman who is 30 million years older than her husband has the 6 realms revolving around her. A woman who is 300 million years older than her husband can create the world. A woman who is 300 million years older than her husband can have Pangu as her younger brother. A woman who is 300 billion years older than her husband can rub the Milky Way with her hands. A woman who is 300 billion years older than her husband can blow up the 9 heavens and 10 earths with her bare hands. As one of the few stunning beauties in the world of pirates who is not affected by time, Stussy is definitely the best choice for a relationship. Facts have proved that Li Luo's decision is quite correct. No matter good or bad, people in the world of pirates have the most beautiful beliefs in their hearts. Even an agent like Stussy, who has been brainwashed by the CP agency, has successfully fallen into the gentle land arranged by Li Luo after Li Luo used the sweet words of his previous life. Usually, as long as there is no mission, she will accompany Li Luo to wander around the East Blue Sea and collect materials and look for news with him. Anyway, Li Luo's work is essentially the same as Stussy's, both for obtaining intelligence. And Li Luo also relied on Stussy to unlock the novice gift pack to such an extent in less than a year as an ordinary person. Without Stussy's company in the East Blue Sea, Li Luo would have been buried in the belly of a fish long ago. At this time, Stussy looked at the somewhat excited Li Luo with a puzzled look on his face. Why do you have to report to this restaurant? They have been staying here for several days in a row. As CP0, Stussy naturally knows that the owner of this restaurant is Redfoot Zeph who retired from the Grand Line, but this guy is just a cook. In the Grand Line, he only robbed money but did not kill people. According to CP0's intelligence, this guy is not a threat to the world government at all. That's why they let him withdraw from the Grand Line, and even if they knew his identity, they did not hunt him down. And this is the fact. The Navy has limited energy. For those pirates who have turned over a new leaf, the Navy basically just symbolically retains the bounty order. As long as you don't continue to make trouble, the Navy and the world government will assume that you are dead and will not take the initiative to look for you. Pluto Rayleigh and Jabba under Roger are both in this situation. After all, going against such a reclusive pirate is not only a waste of manpower, but also brings no benefits. If these pirates are forced to come out again, it will be a loss for the Navy and the world government. Of course, this is also the reason why pirates emerge in endlessly. If they can't make it, they will just find a small island and live in seclusion with a new look. So Stussy didn't think that exposing Redfoot Zeph was a big news worth recording. And one of the things that attracted Stussy to Li Luo was the fanatical concentration of Li Luo when writing the news. She didn't think that Li Luo would stay in one place for so long just to report such things. Upon hearing this, Li Luo elegantly gave Stussy a kiss in public, and Stussy blushed immediately. Hate it, there are so many people watching me. What are you afraid of? I just want them to witness our love. Li Luo said righteously. Stussy was immediately fascinated by Li Luo's sweet words. Li Luo then said slowly. Do you think the reason I came here was red-footed GP? Stussy was stunned and looked at Li Luo in surprise. He was CP0, so it was not surprising for him to know that red-footed Jeep was in seclusion, but he did not expect that Li Luo also knew about it. Li Luo looked at Stussy's puzzled eyes and said with a smile. Don't look at me like that. As a news agency worker, isn't it normal to read more news when you have nothing to do? Stussy suddenly realized that in terms of intelligence alone, even their CP0 is far inferior to the news agency. Because no one knows how many spies the news agency has, and even the entire pirate world is made up of non-staff members of the news agency. Any news will be collected by news agencies in various places, and once adopted, they will receive a manuscript fee. This kind of business that is sure to make money has made civilians from all over the world submit interesting stories around them to the news agency like the Chaoyang masses. If it is adopted, it will be an extra income. In this way, Li Luo, who has become an intern reporter at the headquarters, naturally has the authority to read some of the intelligence owned by the news agency. Stussy asked with a puzzled look on his face. Since it's not Zeph, what's so noteworthy about this restaurant? Li Luo smiled when he heard it, of course. He pointed to the photo he had just taken and said with a smile, it's because of him. Chapter 3. Stussy was stunned. What's so noteworthy about this nympho? She had an impression of this guy. When he saw her, he came up to her as if he was in heat. The intelligence admiral should be the kid that red-footed Zeph rescued from a cruise ship. Li Luo chuckled secret. Then he sent the photos and the written manuscript to the headquarters using a den mushi that was specially used to transmit documents. Stussy glanced at it. The article simply reported how delicious the Barity restaurant was, how the fighting chefs in the restaurant drove away the pirates, and a series of interesting things. There was no shocking news. Stussy, who was already curious about intelligence, came up to Li Luo like a kitten and blew into his ear. Just tell me. If you tell me, I will unlock new achievements for you. A stream of hot air blew into Li Luo's ears, and Li Luo suddenly felt his scalp tingling. Looking at Stussy's perfect figure, he felt distracted. This demon. Li Luo felt as if he was being scratched by a cat. As the one who controlled the sea, Stussy, the queen of Pleasure Street, which owns more than 80% of the world's sex industry, is not comparable to those simple little girls. When he won her over, Li Luo was shocked to find that she had never been in a relationship. This made Li Luo call Stussy a treasure girl in the world of pirates. Especially as time went by, Stussy's favorability improved, and Stussy unlocked many new achievements. This made Li Luo feel like he was playing a top-notch development game. Looking at the smiling Stussy at this time, Li Luo suppressed his anger and said with a smile. Because this guy is the Prince of Germa 66. Well, I definitely didn't tell anyone just because I unlocked a new achievement. Absolutely. Stussy was stunned when she heard this. Even she didn't know this information, but she didn't care because Germa 66 is still a member of the world government. Whether Sanji is the Prince of Germa 66 who is stranded outside is not important to the world government. Stussy dragged her chin and asked. Are you trying to make Germa 66 owe you a favor? Favors? Li Luo grinned, I don't need favors from others. As a witness of history, I don't want to owe favors to others. We must always remain neutral. Stussy was silent because she remembered the historians and scholars of O'Hara who were destroyed by the world government. She didn't want Li Luo to become her enemy because of witnessing history. Stussy hesitated for a moment and asked. What do you think of those O'Hara scholars? Li Luo looked at Stussy and smiled. They are just a bunch of idiots, how dare they call themselves scholars? Stussy was stunned, then asked in a low voice. Ah? Why do you say that? I heard that those scholars were destroyed because they studied the real history you witnessed. Li Luo looked at Stussy's cautious look with amusement. He didn't expect that she would tell him such an important thing. It seemed that he had begun to disintegrate her heart step by step. Subconsciously, Stussy had begun to partially abandon her identity as CP0 to help him. Li Luo shook his head at Stussy and said with a smile. History is written by the victors. Stussy's pupils shrank when she heard this. She looked at Li Luo in surprise. She thought that what Li Luo was pursuing was the real history. Li Luo slowly said, there's nothing to be surprised about. History may be objective and unchangeable, but there is no information in this world that does not carry a historical perspective. News is nothing but the product of human will. All news and biographies are always reported and recorded according to the ideas or purposes of the producers, and only the victors are qualified to write history. Today, the world is ruled by the celestial dragons. It is a very stupid thing for a group of foolish scholars to try to break the rules and study the history recorded by the so-called losers. So it is normal for them to be destroyed. If I were a ruler, I would also wipe out this group of ignorant fools. This is reality, this is history. Not having enough strength to understand the truth, but still challenging authority under the guise of studying history, this is just stupid. Stussy's eyes lit up when she heard Li Luo's remarks. As the queen of Happy Street with the largest source of intelligence in CP0, she knows a lot of intelligence. She knows O'Hara's demon-killing order and the massacre of civilians very well. She also has humanity and conscience as a human being. The training of CP0 is to suppress their humanity and conscience to the maximum extent rather than annihilate them. She has seen too much darkness and she has trouble sleeping and eating every day, but special training will not let it show. Now Li Luo's words finally made her suddenly enlightened. Yes, history is written by the victors, regardless of right or wrong. The world government has expressly banned the study of historical texts. You don't have the strength to protect yourself but still insist on studying it. Isn't that courting death? Stussy's knot was immediately untied after listening to it. She stood up and pulled Li Luo to the door, where their ship was docked. Chapter 4. It was already the next day when Li Luo returned to Barity Restaurant. At this time, he urgently needed a novice gift pack to improve his strength, otherwise his dominant position in this relationship would be unstable. The physical strength of the two was really too different. Boom! With a loud bang, the Barity Restaurant suddenly shook violently. Stussy frowned and looked up. She sensed that someone had attacked the restaurant. Li Luo, who was standing aside, showed an excited expression on his face. He knew that the plot had begun. The protagonists who made the entire pirate world a mess have appeared. At this time, in the sky, a newsbird dropped a newspaper to Li Luo. As a reporter from a news agency, he naturally did not need to spend money to buy newspapers. As long as the newsbird saw Li Luo, it would naturally give him a copy for free. He opened the newspaper, and in a small corner at the end of a newspaper, a report about the Barity Restaurant appeared in the eyes of the two. And at the same time, shock point +1, shock point +1, shock point +10, shock point +200. A series of system prompts sounded and appeared in the system broadcast in Li Luo's mind. Congratulations on accumulating more than 10,000 shock points. Do you want to activate the novice gift package? Li Luo's eyes lit up immediately. Finally! After a year, he finally unlocked this abominable achievement. Li Luo had been forcing himself not to spend shock points on the lottery, just for this moment. The level of the lottery is divided into the lowest level F-level lottery and the highest level S-level lottery according to the shock points. The F-level lottery only requires 1 shock point. Li Luo had tried it when he first published an article. The F-level lottery can only get blank weapons such as fine steel longswords and fire guns. The best is just attribute rewards such as physical strength +1, which can only be regarded as a negligible improvement in strength. But it is cheap and can steadily and slowly improve Li Luo's strength. When his strength is sufficient, he can interview more dangerous news to obtain higher shock points. It is a way to steadily improve. Unfortunately, the system probably didn't expect Li Luo to meet a rich woman like Stussy, and directly chose to start with a soft meal. Under the protection of the Master CP0, Li Luo can roam freely in the East Blue Sea, which also gives him the confidence to accumulate shock points and go directly to the novice gift package. Now looking at the shock points on the panel, Li Luo understands that it is obvious that someone in Germa 66 knows Sanji's identity, so 200 shock points suddenly burst out. You must know that every 1,000 ordinary civilians in the pirate world will only generate 1 shock point. This one time 200 points is enough to show that a strong or influential person is shocked by the news about himself. There is absolutely no other candidate who can do it except the royal family members of Germa 66. Looking at the activated novice gift package, Li Luo smiled evilly and thought. I wonder if the Germa family will get Sanji back in advance. Hehe. But this has nothing to do with Li Luo. At this time, he is immersed in the excitement of the novice gift pack. The system has opened the novice gift pack. Li Luo excitedly said to himself. Newbie gift pack randomly. Congratulations on winning the Naruto World Novice Survival Gift Pack. Congratulations on obtaining the Chakra Extraction Technique 1. Congratulations on getting Throwing Mastery 1. Congratulations on getting a set of Kunao and Shuriken 1. Congratulations on getting a set of 1 Detonating Talisman. Congratulations on obtaining the basic ninjutsu 3 body techniques 1. Congratulations on obtaining bloodline limit, Mangeki Sharingan divine power, single, 1. Congratulations on obtaining bloodline, thousand hand bloodline 1. Congratulations on obtaining the wood release ninjutsu wood release cutting technique 1. A series of prompts made Li Luo stunned in place, and then he felt a warm current flowing through his body, and his originally weak body was instantly filled with strength. Then a coolness went straight to his right eye, and he suddenly felt that the whole world slowed down a lot in his right eye. The tables and chairs of the Barity restaurant were all in sight, and even a small silverfish under the tables and chairs was clearly visible. This is an extraordinary dynamic vision. As Li Luo's right eye turned black again, everything returned to normal, but Li Luo's vision still increased several times. With the bonus brought to the body by the blood of the thousand hands, even if the chakra has not been extracted at this time, Li Luo already feels that he is more than several times stronger than before. Dozens of times. However, what makes Li Luo most ecstatic is his right eye. That is the power of God. Uchiha Obi Soil, the biggest cheat that makes the whole ninja world go around in circles. It can be called the No. 1 life-saving skill in Naruto. No doubt about it. It can make itself virtual to avoid enemy attacks. That is, at the moment of being attacked, the attacked part will be transferred to another space, which can be used to avoid attacks and pass through obstacles. It can also teleport itself and nearby objects into time and space. The only disadvantage is that it is subject to a certain time limit. In the single eye state, it can be cracked in 5 minutes of non-interval attack. In addition, it is slow to teleport itself and is easily interrupted. But this is not the world of Naruto, and there is no genius like Konan who specializes in studying Obito's shortcomings. As long as Li Luo doesn't say it, no one can guess the weakness of Kamui. As long as the chakra is sufficient, it is almost impossible to be killed. This is simply the most suitable golden finger for Li Luo to spy on intelligence and interview news. Thinking of this, Li Luo showed an inexplicable smile on his face. It is so boring to just witness history and record history. What you have to do is to create history and make up history. Chapter 5. At this moment, 2 chefs dragged Luffy, who was like a dead dog, past Li Luo and Stussy. "Boss, we brought him here." 2 chefs shouted to the captain's room upstairs. Seeing Luffy's hopeless look, Li Luo burst out laughing. Stussy on the side asked curiously. "What's wrong? Is there anything funny? Do you know him?" Li Luo smiled. "Of course, this is the trendsetter of the next era." Stussy looked at Luffy who was dragged upstairs with a puzzled look on his face. "Trendsetter? Are you kidding me? The guy who was dragged away by the chef like a dead dog?" At this moment, a contemptuous voice sounded from behind Li Luo. "Get out of the way, you ignorant fellow, you are blocking the way of my captain of the Navy headquarters, Iron Fist Hobadai." Li Luo and Stussy raised their eyebrows, and Hobadai instantly felt his hair stand on end. He looked around in astonishment, but did not find any danger. The female companion beside him asked Hobadai curiously, "What's wrong?" At this time, Stussy frowned at Hobadai, took Li Luo's hand and stood aside. The chill in Hobadai's heart suddenly subsided. And Li Luo did not say much. If a dog bites you, you can't bite the dog back, but turning around and beating the dog to death is what a person should do. Stussy obviously did not want to reveal her identity in front of Li Luo at this time, and the same was true for Li Luo. After all, before he completely took down Stussy, he didn't want Stussy to think that he approached her with a purpose. And anyway, Hobadai was about to be in trouble, and as a reporter, it would be too sorry for himself if he didn't add insult to injury. Work. It's just right to reap a wave of shock points. After all, this is a scandal of the Navy, and it must be much more attractive than some trivial pirates being caught. Hobadai looked at Li Luo and the other man who stepped aside and smiled triumphantly. His title of captain of the Navy headquarters was really useful. However, at this time he didn't know that he had been remembered by 2 ruthless guys. He pushed open the door of the Barity restaurant, and a group of diners cast their eyes on Hobadai. In the weakest waters of the East Blue Sea, a captain of the Navy headquarters who can lead a warship alone is already worthy of envy. Look, that's Captain Hopdi sitting over there. He is a captain of the Navy headquarters. He is not comparable to those guys in the branch. So handsome. So elegant. Everyone looked at Hobadai who was sitting down and started talking. Li Luo and Stussy, who also found a corner, looked at Hobadai at the same time. Suddenly he felt a chill again. What the hell is this place, why is it so cold? Hobadai cursed in a low voice. His female companion did not feel this way at this time. She just smiled and said to Hobadai, "You are great, everyone is watching you. Everywhere, I am attracted by your beauty." Hobadai raised his glass of red wine and clinked it with his hands to compliment. Then he took a sip of the red wine and said in a shocked tone, "Ah! It tastes so good. This taste." Everyone looked at Hobadai, who was exclaiming. He smelled the wine glass and said, "This aroma is the aroma of the earth of Michael in the north. Slightly sour with a mellow spicy taste, this red wine is Etruscan Brugastine." "That's right, waiter," Hobadai said, and then he looked at Sanji proudly and asked loudly. Everyone in the restaurant was surprised at Hobadai's profound knowledge of red wine. Even the female companion opposite was amazed, as if she was impressed by Hobadai. Only Li Luo and Stussy showed playful smiles on their faces. One of them was familiar with the plot, and the other had 5 senses far beyond ordinary people through the training of the 6 styles of the navy. Sanji pressed the red wine on the table. "No, that's not right, my guest." He handed Hobadai a soup spoon and pressed it in his hand. "The soup is getting cold, drink it while it's hot." After saying that, he turned around and walked away without paying any attention to this idiot. "By the way, I'm the sous chef Sanji. The waiters all ran away after a fight yesterday." Pfft! Hobadai's female companion laughed out loud while covering her mouth as she watched Hobadai fail in his attempt to show off. The rest of the people in the restaurant turned around and tried hard to hold back their laughter. "Don't laugh, he's a captain at the Marine headquarters. Who told him to look so confident?" Li Luo and Stussy laughed out loud. "Haha! Shabai!" Hobadai was so angry that veins on his forehead were exposed, but he couldn't lose his temper in front of so many people. "Do you know a lot about it?" The female companion smiled and took a sip and asked, "Red wine?" Hobadai lowered his head and said in a low voice with a sullen face, "It's okay, maybe my tongue is a little slow today." This self-deceiving remark immediately made the female companion laugh again. Hobadai couldn't hold it back this time. He didn't want to embarrass his female companion, but stood up and walked to Li Luo and Stussy, who laughed the loudest and said angrily, "You guys! Do you want to die? Do you know who I am? I am a captain of the Navy headquarters." However, Li Luo was not panicked at all. He picked up the camera and smiled at Hobadai. "Come on, smile, idiot." Hobadai was immediately furious and punched him. Chapter 6. With the sound of the camera clicking, Hobadai's fist fell directly. Stussy, who was sitting opposite, had a fierce look on his face, and the finger gun in his hand was about to pierce Hobadai. "Get lost!" A cold shout reached Hobadai's ears directly. Hobadai's waving fist suddenly stopped. Because he saw Li Luo's scarlet kaleidoscope staring at him like the god of death. The murderous intent exuded made his legs unable to move. Conqueror's Haki. Stussy looked at her boyfriend in shock. The Sharingan is originally the external manifestation of spiritual energy. His impact on outsiders is exactly the same as Luffy's performance when he first revealed his Conqueror's Haki to scare the buffalo that copied Sanji. Conqueror's Haki may not be common in the pirate world, but it is not rare in Naruto. Zabuza once released murderous intent to make Naruto and Sasuke unable to move. Not to mention the murderous intent that caused a hurricane in the outside world when Orochimaru frightened Sasuke in the Chunin exam, which is almost the same as the Conqueror's Haki in the pirate world. Although Li Luo could not reach the level of Zabuza and Orochimaru at this time, it was still easy to scare a small navy captain with the mental power and chakra of a single Mangekyo. And it was easy. Hobadai, who was frozen in place, felt as if his body was shaking uncontrollably and sat on the ground. Stussy looked at Li Luo with surprise, as if he knew him all over again. "You know, the domineering color is different from other domineering. This thing is innate and will only erupt when stimulated. It has nothing to do with experience, training, and age. This little boyfriend who I accidentally found in a remote place in the East Blue Sea actually awakened the domineering color domineering?" This made Stussy look at Li Luo even more surprised. She was already thinking about whether to recruit him to the CP agency. Such a good seedling should not be wasted. At this time, Hobadai looked at Li Luo in horror, as if he was looking at a monster. He rolled and crawled to his seat and didn't dare to raise his head. The diners around looked confused. They saw Hobadai get angry and punch Li Luo, and then Li Luo cursed him and ran away in disgrace. This made people confused. Only Li Luo smiled and looked at Stussy hypocritically. Didn't scare you? Stussy shook her head quickly, pretending to be a little girl who didn't know much about the world. It was hard to tell that this was the biggest Mama-san in the pirate world, the real Sea King versus the Queen of the Sea. Hobadai was also a little dazed when he returned to the dinner table. He didn't know what had happened and why he was scared and ran back. Even though he was in the Navy headquarters, he was in charge of the East Blue Sea Patrol and couldn't touch the power of Haki at all. Not to mention that Li Luo still looked like Haki's Sharingan Xiantuna mental pressure. What's wrong with you? The female companion frowned and looked at the naval captain in front of her. At this moment, he was completely different from the so-called demeanor he usually showed. But Li Luo over there made her feel bright. He looked like a weak young man, but he was not afraid of Hobadai's fist at all. Seeing Hobadai being scared like this, she wondered if Li Luo was the eldest son of the navy who scared him back. Looking at the female companion he invited who was staring at Li Luo, Hobadai was immediately furious. If he couldn't afford to offend Li Luo, could he not afford to offend this shabby restaurant? He glanced around and found a silverfish worm under his feet. He quietly stepped on it to death, held it in his hand and shouted, "Waiter! Where is the waiter? Didn't I tell you that I won't call a waiter?" Sanji, who was passing by, frowned and walked forward. Suddenly he noticed the girl next to Hobadai. "Hey, miss, you are really beautiful. How about having a glass of wine with me?" Sanji said, kneeling on one knee like a prince to invite him. Hobadai's eyes suddenly became bloodshot and he was completely mad. How could your uncle's poaching be so open and aboveboard? He slapped the table and pointed at the broth and shouted. "Do you always serve customers soup with bugs in it in your store?" "Bugs?" Sanji looked at Hobadai strangely. Hobadai pointed at the broth again. "Are you blind? Can't you see the bugs?" Sanji grinned. "Sorry, sir, I don't know much about it. After all, I don't know much about brothers." The guests in the restaurant couldn't help laughing. Hobadai lost his mind after being humiliated. What a joke! Hobadai yelled and punched the table. Boom! Snap! 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 The photos with several flashes made everyone in the restaurant look confused. Li Luo stood in front of the two of them and kept taking photos. "Sanji, strike a pose, I will take a handsome picture of you, so that many young ladies will admire you." Li Luo gave Sanji a thumbs up. Sanji was overjoyed when he heard that. He kicked Hobadai to the roof with a high kick, and posed like Bruce Lee to signal Li Luo to take the picture quickly. Li Luo would certainly not miss this great opportunity. His dynamic vision had already captured this series of handsome poses in the camera. Li Luo gave Sanji a thumbs up. Nice. Wait for tomorrow's newspaper. Chapter 7. With the sound of the camera clicking, Hobadai's fist fell directly. Stussy, who was sitting opposite, had a fierce look on his face, and the finger gun in his hand was about to pierce Hobadai. "Get lost!" A cold shout reached Hobadai's ears directly. Hobadai's waving fist suddenly stopped. Because he saw Li Luo's scarlet kaleidoscope staring at him like the god of death. The murderous intent exuded made his legs unable to move. Conqueror's Haki. Stussy looked at her boyfriend in shock. The Sharingan is originally the external manifestation of spiritual energy. His impact on outsiders is exactly the same as Luffy's performance when he first revealed his Conqueror's Haki to scare the buffalo that copied Sanji. Conqueror's Haki may not be common in the pirate world, but it is not rare in Naruto. Zabuza once released murderous intent to make Naruto and Sasuke unable to move. Not to mention the murderous intent that caused a hurricane in the outside world when Orochimaru frightened Sasuke in the Chunin exam, which is almost the same as the Conqueror's Haki in the pirate world. Although Li Luo could not reach the level of Zabuza and Orochimaru at this time, it was still easy to scare a small navy captain with the mental power and chakra of a single Mangekyo. And it was easy. Hobadai, who was frozen in place, felt as if his body was shaking uncontrollably and sat on the ground. Stussy looked at Li Luo with surprise, as if he knew him all over again. "You know, the domineering color is different from other domineering. This thing is innate and will only erupt when stimulated. It has nothing to do with experience, training, and age. This little boyfriend who I accidentally found in a remote place in the East Blue Sea actually awakened the domineering color." Domineering? This made Stussy look at Li Luo even more surprised. She was already thinking about whether to recruit him to the CP agency. Such a good seedling should not be wasted. At this time, Hopadai looked at Li Luo in horror, as if he was looking at a monster. He rolled and crawled to his seat and didn't dare to raise his head. The diners around looked confused. They saw Hopadai get angry and punch Li Luo, and then Li Luo cursed him and ran away in disgrace. This made people confused. Only Li Luo smiled and looked at Stussy hypocritically. Didn't scare you? Stussy shook her head quickly, pretending to be a little girl who didn't know much about the world. It was hard to tell that this was the biggest Mama-san in the pirate world, the real Sea King versus the Queen of the Sea. Hopadai was also a little dazed when he returned to the dinner table. He didn't know what had happened and why he was scared and ran back. Even though he was in the Navy headquarters, he was in charge of the East Blue Sea Patrol and couldn't touch the power of Haki at all. Not to mention that Li Luo still looked like Haki's Sharingan Xiantuna mental pressure. What's wrong with you? The female companion frowned and looked at the naval captain in front of her. At this moment, he was completely different from the so-called demeanor he usually showed. But Li Luo over there made her feel bright. He looked like a weak young man, but he was not afraid of Hobadai's fist at all. Seeing Hobadai being scared like this, she wondered if Li Luo was the eldest son of the Navy who scared him back. Looking at the female companion he invited who was staring at Li Luo, Hobadai was immediately furious. If he couldn't afford to offend Li Luo, could he not afford to offend this shabby restaurant? He glanced around and found a silverfish worm under his feet. He quietly stepped on it to death, held it in his hand and shouted, "Waiter! Where is the waiter? Didn't I tell you that I won't call a waiter?" Sanji, who was passing by, frowned and walked forward. Suddenly he noticed the girl next to Hobadai. "Hey, miss, you are really beautiful. How about having a glass of wine with me?" Sanji said, kneeling on one knee like a prince to invite him. Hobadai's eyes suddenly became bloodshot and he was completely mad. How could your uncle's poaching be so open and aboveboard? He slapped the table and pointed at the broth and shouted. "Do you always serve customers soup with bugs in it in your store?" "Bugs?" Sanji looked at Hobadai strangely. Hobadai pointed at the broth again. "Are you blind? Can't you see the bugs?" Sanji grinned. "Sorry, sir, I don't know much about it. After all, I don't know much about brothers." The guests in the restaurant couldn't help laughing. Hobadai lost his mind after being humiliated. What a joke! Hobadai yelled and punched the table. Boom! Snap! 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 The photos with several flashes made everyone in the restaurant look confused. Li Luo stood in front of the two of them and kept taking photos. "Sanji, strike a pose, I will take a handsome picture of you, so that many young ladies will admire you." Li Luo gave Sanji a thumbs up. Sanji was overjoyed when he heard that. He kicked Hobadai to the roof with a high kick, and posed like Bruce Lee to signal Li Luo to take the picture quickly. Li Luo would certainly not miss this great opportunity. His dynamic vision had already captured this series of handsome poses in the camera. Li Luo gave Sanji a thumbs up. Nice. Wait for tomorrow's newspaper. Chapter 8. Ah. Ocean, thank you for meeting me today. Love, just laugh at me who can't bear this pain. As long as I am with you, I am ready to become a pirate or a devil. Before Li Luo could act, Sanji knelt beside Nami with a red rose and said cheesy love words loudly. Zoro's eyes twitched as if he was looking at a fool. Nami took the rose with a confused look on her face, and Sanji immediately stood up and covered his chest and shouted. Ah! But this is so sad, there is such a huge obstacle between us. Bang! Suddenly a kick came and kicked Sanji away. The obstacle you are talking about is me. Brat, now is a good opportunity, how about going with them to become a pirate? This store doesn't need you anymore. Sanji got up in shock and anger and looked at the red-footed Zeph behind him. Do you want to drink? Li Luo smiled and handed the red wine to Nami. Thank you. Nami took it subconsciously, and Usopp beside her asked fiercely, who are you? Li Luo smiled and took out his press card and said. My name is Li Luo, I am a journalist. Reporter. Is it the news in the newspapers dropped by the newsbird that Nami reads every day? Usopp looked at Li Luo in surprise. He usually only saw various news, but this was the first time he saw a news writer. Li Luo smiled and nodded. Yes, that's what I do. Usopp immediately said excitedly. Look at me. Look at me. Do I have the potential to be on the news? Nami asked Usopp curiously. Why do you want to be on the news? Usopp patted his chest and said. As soon as I appear on the news, Kaya will definitely be able to see my heroic figure. Whispering sound. Everyone looked at Usopp with disdain. Zoro, who was more sober at this time, frowned and asked Li Luo. Why would you, a reporter, come to us pirates? Are you going to give us an interview? Of course not. Li Luo chuckled and took a sip of his red wine and said. I'm here to see Miss Nami. Nami was stunned when she heard that. Looking for me? What do you want to do with me? It's not convenient to talk here. Are you interested in coming to my room to chat tonight? Li Luo said with a sly smile. As soon as he finished speaking, Zoro's Wado Ikimonji, Usopp's slingshot and Sanji's leather shoes appeared in front of Li Luo. Li Luo raised his wine glass and raised his hands to indicate that he had no ill intentions. Hey, don't be so excited. I'm just talking to this beautiful lady about something she's interested in. Then Li Luo looked at Sanji speechlessly. Why are you joining in the fun? He has been eating here for nearly a week to squat Hawkeye, and he has long been familiar with Sanji, the pervert. Sanji put down his legs awkwardly. Ahem. Sorry, I'm used to it. I couldn't help kicking a scumbag like you when I saw him. Stussy just left and you turned around to flirt with her. Isn't that inappropriate? Li Luo gave him a middle finger in contempt. At least I waited for Stussy to leave. You, a beast, flirted with one and then flirted with another. Let me tell you, the one who succeeds in flirting is called the Sea King, and the one who fails is called the Sea Dog. Sanji's face darkened when he heard this. You are the Sea Dog, your whole family is a Sea Dog. Beautiful princess, let me tell you, this guy has been partying all day and night these days, jealous. No, he is not a good person at all. Looking at the vigilant people, Li Luo smiled, facing the sharp blade under his neck without any fear. He leaned forward to meet Zoro's blade and probed towards Nami's ear. Seeing this, Zoro's pupil shrank, and he quickly turned the blade and tried to block Li Luo's neck with the back of the blade. However, the next second, Li Luo's neck strangely passed through Zoro's Wado Ikimonji. Nanny! Zoro's face changed when he saw this, and he quickly took back his treasure and looked around. Usopp even screamed ah! Ghost! For a moment, everyone in the restaurant frowned and looked here. Only Li Luo was unmoved and whispered in Nami's ear. Suddenly, Nami's face changed, and then turned pale. She stood up suddenly and stared at Li Luo. Li Luo stood up with a sly smile and said. Don't look at me like that. It's just one more suggestion. Then he handed Nami a business card and said. Think about it carefully. I'll wait for you in the room tonight. Then he laughed and left. Damn it, what's wrong with this guy? Usopp asked Nami angrily. Nami, what did he say to you? Did he threaten you? Let's get Zoro to kill him. Zoro was speechless when he heard this. Go by yourself. Nami held the business card in silence for a long time, and finally stuffed the business card into her chest. Seeing this, Zoro frowned. Is she really going to go? Chapter 9. On the other side, Li Luo returned to Barity's room. This was the room that Li Luo rented from GP after Stussy drove the boat away. After all, he would stay here for a few more days. At this time, he looked at the system panel in his mind. It was very simple, with only the options for the lottery of each level and the shock points consumed. F-level lottery, 1 shock point/time, you can draw F-level rewards, and there is a small probability of drawing D-level rewards. E-level lottery, 10 shock points/time, you can draw E-level rewards, and there is a small probability of drawing D-level rewards. D-level lottery, 100 shock points/time, you can draw a D-level reward, and there is a small chance of drawing a C-level reward. A-level lottery, 100,000 shock points/time, you can draw A-level rewards, and there is a small chance of drawing S-level rewards. S-level lottery, 1 million shock points/time, with a high probability of winning an S-level reward. Every time Li Luo saw it, he sneered at the system's small probability. Damn, the small amount of this thing feels not much different from the chance of winning the jackpot in a scratch-off lottery. There may be a guarantee, but Li Luo has never gotten the guarantee. Moreover, Li Luo wanted to curse the system for blocking the reward level so tightly. Look at other people's gold finger lottery, which one is not from F to SSS Super God rewards, everything depends on luck, and generally a few super artifacts are given at the beginning. As a result, when it came to me, it became a matter of 1 cent for one thing. If you draw an F-level lottery, you will only get an F-level reward. At most, you will get a general like a scratch-off lottery ticket, and the reward will be increased by 1 level. The possibility of Li Luo's small bet for a big win was fundamentally eliminated. Li Luo looked at the shock points he got. After deducting the 200 shock points he put into the lottery, there were less than 100 points left. As an intern reporter, the rate of publication is still quite poor, especially before entering the Grand Line. The news released is basically only published in the East Blue Sea Special Report. There is no news release in other seas and the Grand Line. The reason why Li Luo came to interview Barity this time is precisely because of the special identity of red-footed Zeph, so that this interview report can be published in the Four Seas column. This is an opportunity that Li Luo spent a lot of money to get. Try to prove that opportunities always come to those who are prepared. Through this report, Li Luo successfully earned 300 shocking points at one time. The one-time 200 shocking points in the system record were obviously seen by one of the people in the Germa Kingdom. Originally, Li Luo had been waiting for new shocking points to be credited, but there is still no second 200 until now. It seems that it is very likely that Reiju got the newspaper, so she chose to conceal it. Thinking of this, Li Luo shook his head regretfully. It's a pity. If everyone saw it, it would be at least 800 shocking points. As for whether Sanji is in danger? It was still early for Big Mom's tea party. Before Sanji had any use, his father wanted to stay away from this useless son. After all, Sanji had not yet followed Luffy to the sea to become famous. In Kaji's opinion, Sanji would only bring shame to himself. System: conduct F-level draws, 10 consecutive draws. Li Luo muttered in his heart. Since he got the system, except for a few draws at the beginning, Li Luo has been resisting the urge to draw and accumulating shock points to activate the novice gift package. Because he knows that the things in the novice gift package must be better than the rewards given by an A-level draw. And in fact, it is indeed the case. The power of the Mangeki Sharingan and the Thousand Hands bloodline alone are enough to equal 2 A-level draws, not to mention the matching various ninjutsu, training techniques and combinations of kunao, detonating tags, etc. Even if Li Luo no longer continues to draw, it is enough to rely on this set of gift packages to gradually cultivate into a strong man. Now that the gift package has been activated, Li Luo is ready to try the items in each prize area and reformulate a shock point accumulation strategy. Currently has 93 shock points. The system is drawing a lottery, shock point -10. Congratulations on getting a set of Kunao, a set of Bingliang Wan, Bailey plus 5000, Bailey plus 5000, Fire Gun plus 1, Medicine plus 1. Congratulations on triggering a critical hit, and getting an E-level bonus of Physical Strength plus 1. Li Luo instantly felt that his body had been slightly strengthened. The reason why he felt it so obviously was that at this time, Li Luo's physical strength could only be regarded as that of an ordinary person. After all, even the people in Naruto did not major in physical skills, but mainly focused on chakra. Even the Thousand Hands bloodline only had stronger physical energy and could extract more chakra. However, there would not be much increase in physical strength, so at this time, even if the strength was drawn to 1 point, it would feel a significant degree of strengthening. It was like he had gone through a day of high-intensity exercise. Li Luo's eyes lit up when he saw this. In this way, he would not have to exercise hard every day. Relying on the lottery was enough to make up for the physical gap between himself and those monsters in the pirate world. Li Luo looked at the items in front of him and thought. The increase in physical strength is an E-level reward. It is obviously unrealistic to rely on the F-level reward 1 point at a time. Moreover, most of the F-level rewards are plus 5000 Baileys, and some are basic weapons. If you are short of money, you can consider drawing a few times a day. But if you want to improve your strength, you still have to participate in the E-level lottery. Thinking of this, Li Luo issued another command to the system. Chapter 10. Currently has 83 shock points. The system is drawing a lottery, shock point -80. Congratulations on getting physical strength plus 1, chakra plus 1, physical strength plus 1, spirit plus 1, pupil strength plus 1, basic swordsmanship plus 1, basic physical skills plus 1, pupil strength plus 1. Li Luo was stunned. Pupil strength and mental strength were actually separate. A cool feeling sank into the single Mangekyo, and the fatigue brought by the use of Kamui before was actually eliminated a lot. Originally, Li Luo was worried that the Mangekyo would go blind due to excessive use. After all, Obito's Kamui was not an evolved eternal Mangekyo. The reason why it could be used indiscriminately was because of Hashirama's cells. Although he has the blood of the Senju clan, the Senju clan and Hashirama are not the same thing. Now it seems that as long as he draws the lottery, he can replenish the pupil strength lost by the Mangekyo, and he doesn't have to worry about blindness. And mental strength made Li Luo's mind clear, as if it increased an invisible perception ability. Li Luo guessed that mental strength should increase the sixth sense. He felt the changes in his body and muttered to himself. If this thing is enhanced to a certain degree, isn't it the haki of observation? Then there was the so-called basic swordsmanship and basic physical skills, as if some swordsmanship and physical skills were directly added to Li Luo's subconscious. Li Luo casually took out the long sword he had won in the lottery and held it in his hand. Suddenly, a sense of familiarity came out, as if he had practiced swordsmanship before. Flat slash, straight stab, and chop. Li Luo's hands seemed to have been trained and steady as an old dog, without any shaking. You must know that a month of stick, a year of knife, and a lifetime of gun, the sword is hidden with you. It takes a month to learn to use a stick, a year to learn to use a knife, and a lifetime to learn to use a gun. If you want to practice the sword well, you must always carry the sword with you to keep the feel. Otherwise, if you don't touch the sword for a few days, your hands will become stiff. There is no feeling for it. This is why Zoro does nothing but lift weights and wield his swords every day. People who have never learned swordsmanship will never be able to master these movements. When Li Luo drew the basic swordsmanship, his body immediately developed a feeling similar to muscle memory. He believed that the basic physical skills must be the same. As long as the opponent attacks him, he will be able to fight back. He doesn't need to use the Sharingan to scare Hobadai like he did in the morning. But after all, he only drew it once. Li Luo felt that his strength in swordsmanship was only about the same as that of an ordinary navy soldier. Li Luo thought for a while, and silently said to the system in his heart. Can I quantify my current abilities? Ding dong. Host, Li Luo. Race, human. Bloodline, Thousand Hand Clan. Technique, Chakra Refining Technique. Talents, Throwing Mastery, not upgradable, Basic Swordsmanship, 1/10, Basic Physical Skills, 1/10. Skills, Manjiki Sharingan, Single, 3-Body Technique, Duplicate, Substitute, Transformation, Wood Release, Grafting Technique. Li Luo frowned and asked the system. Why are there no numerical values for basic attributes? Basic attributes are affected by many factors such as time, space, state, will, etc. The host's strength is not fixed by the system, and the corresponding value cannot be realized. Li Luo nodded when he heard this. The panel given by the system is just a summary of the existing lottery prizes. The basic attributes are like the combat power measuring instrument in Dragon Ball. Even if the system calculates the current value, once the actual combat power is carried out, it will change according to many factors. Just like Captain Click of the Click Pirates, his bounty is all concentrated on his despicableness and his equipment. If weapons are not counted, 10 clicks can't beat 1 Aiken. Li Luo has skills such as chakra, pupil technique, and ninjutsu. Those basic attributes are of no reference to Li Luo at all. That's fine. Li Luo touched his chin. After all, this is not a game. We only have one life. If we trust those so-called numbers too much, we might die at any time. Thinking of this, Li Luo prepared to start refining chakra. After all, even if he has the blood of the Senju clan, if he doesn't make good use of it, he will only have more recovery ability than ordinary people. This recovery ability is the same as nothing for the perverts in the pirate world who can practice life return. So Li Luo needs to convert the Senju blood into his own strength as soon as possible. After all, he doesn't have a white Zetsu power bank like Uchiha Obito. But this also made Li Luo realize the importance of shocking points. If he wants to become stronger, he must publish a lot of news that will shock the world. Then it is particularly important to be a formal headquarters reporter who can have a small column. So he first sent the report on the Black Navy written in the morning to the headquarters, and then refined chakra on the spot and waited for the night to fall. Because he knew Nami would definitely come here to find him. Chapter 11. When the moon was bright and the stars were dim, he opened his eyes while extracting chakra power from the room. He felt a huge hunger coming from his body. No wonder there is a time limit for extracting chakra. extracting it for too long will damage the foundation of the body. Li Luo felt the emptiness in his body and decisively took out a ration pill he had drawn before and threw it into his mouth. Suddenly, a heat surged in his body and melted all over his body. It must be said that the ration pills in Naruto are really good at replenishing physical strength, but it's a pity that they can only be used in the early stage. In the later stage, for pirates who can learn the level of life return, the energy replenished by knocking a bottle of ration pills is not enough to recover. Just as the ration pills in his body were digested quickly, Li Luo's door was pushed open from the outside. The young Nami walked in from outside. At this time, she frowned, stared at Li Luo on the bed and asked, "I'm here. What did you mean by that during the day? What are you going to do?" Li Luo smiled and said jokingly. He would rather face Arlong alone than involve Luffy and the others in his affairs. This kind of friendship is really enviable. Nami frowned when she heard this. "I don't know what you mean. Did you come to me just to say these things to me?" After saying that, she suddenly smiled, pulled her collar with a charming look and said, "If you want, you can do something even more extreme." Li Luo rolled his eyes when he heard this. "Forget it, although a forced melon can quench your thirst, a thorny one may not be so good. I don't trademark want to be hit on the head with a stick halfway through." Nami immediately put away her expression and snorted. "So what are you going to do?" It turned out that during the day, Li Luo approached Nami and said, "If you don't come to my room at night, I will tell Luffy and the others that you are a cadre of Arlong's pirate group." Li Luo knew that with Nami's kind character, she would naturally not want Luffy and the others to go to Arlong to die. During the 8 years of rule, Arlong had already brainwashed Nami and established that fishmen are the most powerful race in the world. Humans cannot beat fishmen. Even if Luffy ate the devil fruit, even if he was strong enough to defeat Buggy and Kuro, it still couldn't change Nami's idea that Luffy couldn't beat Arlong. So Nami took advantage of Zoro's challenge to Hawkeye to face Arlong alone. And she didn't want to reveal that she had joined Arlong's group, because she still had a fantasy of reuniting with Luffy in her heart. It was precisely because of Nami's kindness that she let Nami come to him at night. Looking at the angry Nami, Lai smiled slightly. "I don't have any bad intentions. I'm a good person. I'm here to help you solve Aaron's problem." Nami didn't believe what the man said. She threatened directly. "Get rid of Along's gang? You know I'm a cadre of Along's gang, but you still say this in front of me. Do you believe that I can easily kill a small reporter like you if I call Along?" Li Luo laughed when he heard this. "I am a reporter, and the information our news agency knows is beyond your imagination." Then he asked with a faint smile on his face. "Do you really think Aaron will keep his promise to redeem Cocoa Village with 100 million berries?" Nami's face suddenly changed. She pulled out 3 wooden sticks from her chest and pointed them at Li Luo, saying in a low voice, "Who are you? What are you going to do?" Li Luo didn't care about the angry little thief, but smiled calmly. "Now everyone in Cocoa West Village knows that you are working hard to redeem it. They are worried that you have concerns and are afraid that one day you will want to leave Aaron's control but be restrained by them, so everyone is pretending to hate you and alienating you. Once they know that Aaron didn't keep his promise, what do you think these people will do?" Nami's pupils shrank when she heard this, and her face suddenly changed. "That's right, they will fight Aaron to the death and use their own lives to set you free." Li Luo smiled at Nami like a devil. Nami immediately lost her voice and retorted, "Impossible. No one knows about the agreement between Aaron and I." Li Luo smiled and shook his head. "Don't underestimate adults. You were only 10 years old when you joined Aaron, right? Joining the enemy who killed your mother is something that anyone who is not a fool would know is problematic. You grew up eating at many people's homes, and those villagers regard you as a relative. No one will believe that their lovely angel will become a devil." Nami's eyes suddenly burst into tears at this moment. She has been ignoring this problem, and it is precisely because her subconscious mind is unwilling to admit it that she automatically ignores it. Now Li Luo has directly exposed the matter. Although she wants to refute it, she knows that what Li Luo said is the fact. Everyone has long known that she wants to redeem the Cocoa West Village. The reason why everyone hid it from her is because everyone knows that Aaron will never keep his promise, and when the scars of reality are revealed bloodily, it is the time for everyone to give up their lives, because they don't want the little belief that Nami relies on to survive to disappear. The villagers have been silently supporting themselves in the way they can. The shocked Nami sat on the ground in a daze and cried bitterly. "What can I do? I just don't want anyone to die anymore. Li Luo walked forward and slowly placed his hand on Nami's head and smiled. Are you interested in making a documentary? Nami looked up at Li Luo in surprise. Chapter 12. In the early hours of the morning, Nami secretly returned to the Mary. Zoro, who was resting in the dormitory, turned over and closed his eyes. The next day, Marine Headquarters. Sengoku came to the marshal's office early in the morning. The news from the CP agency gave him a headache. The 2B who had sent the invitation to the 7 warlords of the sea has now left the Whitebeard pirates and started running around. He couldn't understand why the idiot Whitebeard didn't keep an eye on him. Garp was happily eating his senbei in the office, with bandages wrapped around his chest. Seeing this, Sengoku was so angry that he was furious. He grabbed Garp by the collar and cursed. Garp! Look! Your good grandson! It's already a headache that your son went to join the Revolutionary Army, and I heard that your grandson went to become a pirate again. Even a naval scum could escape when being escorted. How could a naval hero like you be injured by such a thug? I think you just don't want to chase your grandson back. Garp laughed with his head raised. Ha ha ha! You are worthy of being my grandson. You killed a navy scum with just one move. Zhangguo. That's the East Blue Sea. The East Blue Sea that symbolizes peace. How corrupt has it become now? Take a look at this report. Zhangguo said as he threw the newspaper at Garp's face. He flipped it open and saw the photo of Hopadai swinging his fist ferociously and picking up bugs to throw into the soup in a gossip poster. The huge word shock in the title immediately aroused Garp's interest. Shocked. A dignified Navy captain actually did such a thing. Are all the Navy members such scum? Ha ha ha. Sengoku, you Navy scum. Sengoku. You are also a Navy. Garp ignored Zhangguo and turned to look at the article, which contained tens of thousands of words describing Hobadai's atrocities, such as bullying others, using his power to pick up girls, framing others, and trying to beat and threaten reporters. At the end of the article, it was written that this reporter would continue to follow up on the relevant undercover investigations on corruption within the Navy. Garp held his nose and threw the newspaper aside. I'm just a vice admiral, I don't care about these things. Ha ha ha. Sengoku on the side was immediately furious. This guy just didn't want to be controlled by the celestial dragons and refused to be promoted to admiral. When he was free, he used his power to go back to his hometown to take care of Roger's son. He didn't give the Navy any face at all. In the past, I thought this guy was taking care of his hometown. After Ace went to sea, I found out that this guy was purely going to see Roger's son. As a wise general, Sengoku did not make it public after knowing it. After all, once the news that the son of One Piece became a pirate again spread, the prestige of the Navy would surely drop significantly. And Garp's reputation as a naval hero will also be hit, which will cause no small loss to their Navy. Moreover, the dead son of One Piece is not as big a blow to the pirate era as the son of One Piece who surrendered to the Navy. After all, even the son of One Piece gave up one piece, which means that the great secret treasure must be fake. So he directly sent an invitation to Ace to become a Shishibukai, on the one hand to give face to Garp, and on the other hand to have a buffer in case Ace's identity is exposed. Who would have thought that 2B was not willing to become a Shishibukai at all, and after decisively refusing, he swaggered into the new world. What his own Navy can find out, the world government can naturally find out as well. Just when the world government was about to let everyone take action, Whitebeard ran to Ace to recognize his son. Sengoku still suspects that it was this stupid Garp in front of him who told Whitebeard the identity of Ace and asked him to seek protection. Otherwise, how could that guy know Ace's identity for such a secret matter? Looking at Garp who had nothing to do with him at this time, Sengoku just wanted to beat him up. Didn't you see that the reporter still wrote on the back that he would continue reporting? If the Navy really exposes such a scandal again, the so-called symbol of peace will become a joke to others. Speaking of this, Sengoku took out a document and handed it to Garp and said, "Look at this, this is a call for help from a town called Goza, saying that their town was destroyed by the pirate Arlong from the Fishman pirates." The note said that the Brigadier General and Commander of the 77th Branch had been sent to Zumiada Island under the instructions of the government to rescue the surviving villagers. There have been similar requests for help before, but no one paid attention to it before. There is a problem here. You can go and take a look during your vacation. Garp was reluctant to hear this. I just came back from escorting a prisoner, and I was seriously injured. I need to rest for at least 10 days or half a month. Zhang Guo's forehead was suddenly bulging with veins. Bastard! Say that again. Where are the prisoners you are escorting? How could you let that kind of person escape? Karp turned his head and picked his ears with an embarrassed look on his face. He just wanted to see what kind of friends his grandson made, and bring him back to train an undercover agent for his grandson. Is this wrong for a grandfather? No. Chapter 13. Outside the Barity restaurant, on the Mary. Nami, Usopp, and Zoro were yawning out of boredom on the deck. It's so boring. We have been waiting here for almost 4 days. When can we set off? Usopp complained impatiently to Zoro, who was taking a nap. He came here to be a sea warrior, which was not related to the wonderful adventure he imagined. Who knows? Zoro shook his head nonchalantly. Usopp frowned speechlessly. He doesn't really plan to work here as a handyman for a year, does he? Nami said with a chuckle. What does it matter? The food is free and the accommodation is comfortable. Zoro and Usopp. That's just for you. At this time, Luffy came out of the kitchen holding a big bag of garbage. Usopp shouted. Hey, Luffy! What are you doing? Hurry up and set sail. Luffy replied helplessly. Wait for me a moment, I'll go talk to the boss about it. Click, the sound of a camera taking a picture was heard, and then a chuckle was heard behind Luffy. Pfft! Do you, a pirate, need to consult with your boss? Do you have any professional ethics as a pirate? Luffy looked back and saw that it was Li Luo who was holding a Polaroid camera and throwing photos. Hey? But you have to pay for damaging someone's house. Luffy turned around and said with a puzzled look on his face. Li Luo, aren't you a reporter? I haven't seen you go to interview for so many days. You've been eating and drinking in Barity all day. Are reporters treated so well? I'm so envious. Li Luo looked at the photo and put it in his pocket with a smile. Working to pay off debts, Pirate King, will definitely shock many people in the future. As a reporter, you must always find good materials. Who said I don't have a job? Didn't you see what was in the newspaper 2 days ago? Li Luo laughed. He didn't expect that the report on the Black Navy would be so effective. You know, this is just the East Blue Sea column, but it actually contributed more than 600 shocking points to him. Li Luo was so excited that he almost couldn't sleep. Li Luo began to make a new round of plans for his shocking points according to the Standard and Poor's law of his previous life, and planned to take out some shocking points to deposit regularly to try his luck in the B-level lottery. As for A-level and S-level, they would not be considered unless they had a big headline. Luffy thought about it and said with a strange look on his face. Newspaper? Only Nami reads that stuff. I forgot that Luffy, this fool, doesn't care about current affairs at all. It's harder to get him to read than to kill him. Anyway, my next interview target is coming soon, and this is also my job. Luffy nodded and prepared to continue to throw away the garbage. At this moment, the sound of breaking waves came from behind them. Everyone looked over, and a huge black shadow slowly emerged from the morning mist. Li Luo showed a smile on his face. Speak of the devil, here comes the devil, isn't the next guest I want to interview coming in? At this time, the battered flagship of the Click Pirates slowly sailed out of the morning mist. Usopp's eyes widened in fear, and he quickly slipped behind the mast and shouted in horror, hey! Should we run first? So big! As Luffy exclaimed, the fearless saber stopped beside the Barity. The huge sailboat even blocked the sun's rays. At this time, the restaurant was in a panic, and several chefs thought that the revenge of the Click Pirates had come. Sanji frowned and walked out of the restaurant. Luffy touched his chin and thought. Is it that Gaijin who came to repay you? I don't think so. Sanji frowned and said, but it's a bit strange. A gust of wind blew away the morning mist and the broken sailboat appeared in front of everyone. The boat he was on was really shabby. It doesn't look like it was attacked by artillery, does it? It doesn't look like it was done by humans. At this time, a Jin appeared from the boat landing, supporting Click, who was so hungry that he couldn't even stand. Tisk tisk tisk, it's really miserable, how about some clothes UPS? Li Luo smiled and stepped forward, pointing the camera at the two people. Hey, smile, the strongest pirate group in the East Blue Sea has fallen into such a mess, there must be a lot of people watching. Crick, who was supported, lowered his head with a gleam of fierceness in his eyes. He swore that he would kill this ignorant reporter after he had his meal. As a villain who is arrogant, ruthless, and mean, Crick's face was full of smiles when he raised his head. Hello, I have no ill intentions, I just come here to eat, if possible, give me some water and food, as for money, as much as you want. Click said weakly to Li Luo, Sanji, and others with a pitiful look. I don't know how long I haven't eaten. Please give me some water and food. He took a few close-up photos, capturing Click's miserable expression. Li Luo shook the photos and nodded with satisfaction. Yes, you can't just criticize the Navy. As a qualified journalist, it is right to remain neutral. Today's article has shock. What made the strongest overlord of the East Blue Sea fall to begging for a living? Chapter 14. Veins popped up on Click's forehead. Jin, who was supporting him, was also furious. He had already eaten Sanji's meal and was not that hungry. Are you looking for death, kid? Usopp, who was watching the fun, widened his eyes. Hey! Hey! Look how mad he is! Zoro closed his eyes nonchalantly. Why do you care about him? Zoro always holds the mentality of less trouble is better than more trouble, but unfortunately he met a captain who often caused trouble for him. At this time, Click stopped Jin, and he knelt down on the spot. Please, I just want water and food. However, he fainted the next second. Captain Crick! Aiken was shocked. Please, please save our captain. He is really starving to death. He hasn't eaten for many days. At this time, Patty, who ran out of the house to watch, laughed. Ha ha ha! This is the true face of the famous villain Chief Click. When Ajin saw him, he shouted, we brought money this time, but we are guests. Tisk, stop dreaming! Patty shouted triumphantly. Hey, contact the Navy immediately. He is so weak, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't feed him anything. Catch him quickly. The guests nodded in agreement. Yes, this is Click. I heard that he has been sitting on the throne of the East Blue Sea for a long time and he is arrogant. He is ungrateful and cruel, and he doesn't even care about the life and death of his own subordinates. If he recovers, he will definitely attack this store first. Don't even give him a glass of water. Li Luo, who was standing by, saw the unconscious Click clenching his fists. It was obvious that this guy was pretending to be dead. Seeing that more and more people were denouncing him, Click quickly got up and pretended to be weak and said, I won't do anything. I promised you that I would go back after eating, so please save me. Ajin on the side was unhappy and shouted. Chief Creek! Don't do this, please don't bow to them. How can I let you do such a humble thing? Please don't do this. Creek's heart was full of MMP at this time. Damn it, it's not you who is starving, you BB hair, I'm almost starving to death. I promise. Please, even if it's leftovers or something else, it's fine. Click finally begged humbly. At this time, Sanji walked towards the kitchen again silently. Click's face lit up when he saw this. As Jin said, there was a fool in this restaurant. At this time, Li Luo suddenly said. Wait a minute, Sanji, have you ever thought about what to do if he turns against you after he's had his fill? Sanji lit up a cigarette and said, looking deeply at the man. In that case, let me kill him. I'm just doing what a chef should do. Hey! Li Luo just shrugged and didn't try to stop him. But Patty in the restaurant stopped Sanji. Hey! Sanji! There's no way I'm going to let you cook for Click. Don't you know what kind of person he is? The tyrant of the East Blue Sea, the cunning and treacherous Crick is talking about him. This guy disguised himself as a navy, killed his superior, stole the ship, and then often disguised himself as a navy to attack towns and passenger ships. He often raises a white flag to attack enemy ships. He is the kind of person who will do anything to win. After hearing this, Luffy immediately looked disgusted. What? He turned out to be a despicable villain. However, Sanji was not moved at all. Get out of the way. At this time, Zeph also walked out from the upper deck, looked at Sanji indifferently, and said with Patty, let him go, Patty. Patty was shocked when he heard it, boss. Sanji silently walked through the crowd, and finally handed a bowl of seafood fried rice and a bottle of rum to Click. Click knelt down, lowered his head, and stuffed food into his mouth with both hands without saying a word. Li Luo saw Click like a wild dog and praised. You are really flexible. However, facing Li Luo's ridicule, Click did not refute at all, but quickly stuffed the food into his mouth, and then quickly digested it through his body that was different from ordinary people, and it became his body's energy. Finally, a large bowl of fried rice went into Click's mouth. With a gloomy face, he picked up the bottle of wine next to him and gulped it all down. Everyone looked at Click cautiously, and saw that the moment he put down the bottle of wine, he suddenly hit Li Luo's neck with an elbow. Nanny! Everyone looked at Li Luo in horror as his neck turned 180 degrees in a strange posture, his eyes fixed on Sanji, and he fell into the sea with a faint mockery on his lips. Li Luo! Sanji's face changed drastically, and he kicked Crick directly, but Crick, who had recovered his strength, punched him and sent him flying. This sudden scene caused the Barity restaurant to explode, and the guests were scared and fled in all directions. On the Mary nearby, Nami covered her mouth with her hands and stepped back in disbelief. It was just last night. Suddenly she felt that she had bumped into something. Just as she was about to turn around, she heard Li Luo's playful voice. Chapter 15. Veins popped up on Click's forehead. Jin, who was supporting him, was also furious. He had already eaten Sanji's meal and was not that hungry. Are you looking for death, kid? Usopp, who was watching the fun, widened his eyes. Hey! Hey! Look how mad he is. Zoro closed his eyes nonchalantly. Why do you care about him? Zoro always holds the mentality of less trouble is better than more trouble, but unfortunately he met a captain who often caused trouble for him. At this time, Click stopped Jin, and he knelt down on the spot. Please, I just want water and food. However, he fainted the next second. Captain Crick! Aiken was shocked. Please, please save our captain. He is really starving to death. He hasn't eaten for many days. At this time, Patty, who ran out of the house to watch, laughed. Ha ha ha! This is the true face of the famous villain Chief Click. When Ajin saw him, he shouted, we brought money this time, but we are guests. Tisk, stop dreaming! Patty shouted triumphantly. Hey, contact the Navy immediately. He is so weak, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't feed him anything. Catch him quickly. The guests nodded in agreement. Yes, this is Click. I heard that he has been sitting on the throne of the East Blue Sea for a long time and he is arrogant. He is ungrateful and cruel, and he doesn't even care about the life and death of his own subordinates. If he recovers, he will definitely attack this store first. Don't even give him a glass of water. Li Luo, who was standing by, saw the unconscious Click clenching his fists. It was obvious that this guy was pretending to be dead. Seeing that more and more people were denouncing him, Click quickly got up and pretended to be weak and said, I won't do anything. I promised you that I would go back after eating, so please save me. Ajin on the side was unhappy and shouted. Chief Creek! Don't do this, please don't bow to them. How can I let you do such a humble thing? Please don't do this. Creek's heart was full of MMP at this time. Damn it, it's not you who is starving, you BB hair, I'm almost starving to death. I promise. Please, even if it's leftovers or something else, it's fine. Click finally begged humbly. At this time, Sanji walked towards the kitchen again silently. Click's face lit up when he saw this. As Jin said, there was a fool in this restaurant. At this time, Li Luo suddenly said. Wait a minute, Sanji, have you ever thought about what to do if he turns against you after he's had his fill? Sanji lit up a cigarette and said, looking deeply at the man. In that case, let me kill him. I'm just doing what a chef should do. Hey! Li Luo just shrugged and didn't try to stop him. But Patty in the restaurant stopped Sanji. Hey! Sanji! There's no way I'm going to let you cook for Click. Don't you know what kind of person he is? The tyrant of the East Blue Sea, the cunning and treacherous Crick is talking about him. This guy disguised himself as a navy, killed his superior, stole the ship, and then often disguised himself as a navy to attack towns and passenger ships. He often raises a white flag to attack enemy ships. He is the kind of person who will do anything to win. After hearing this, Luffy immediately looked disgusted. What? He turned out to be a despicable villain. However, Sanji was not moved at all. Get out of the way. At this time, Zeph also walked out from the upper deck, looked at Sanji indifferently, and said with Patty, let him go, Patty. Patty was shocked when he heard it, boss. Sanji silently walked through the crowd, and finally handed a bowl of seafood fried rice and a bottle of rum to Click. Click knelt down, lowered his head, and stuffed food into his mouth with both hands without saying a word. Li Luo saw Click like a wild dog and praised. "You are really flexible." However, facing Li Luo's ridicule, Click did not refute at all, but quickly stuffed the food into his mouth, and then quickly digested it through his body that was different from ordinary people, and it became his body's energy. Finally, a large bowl of fried rice went into Click's mouth. With a gloomy face, he picked up the bottle of wine next to him and gulped it all down. Everyone looked at Click cautiously, and saw that the moment he put down the bottle of wine, he suddenly hit Li Luo's neck with an elbow. "Nanny!" Everyone looked at Li Luo in horror as his neck turned 180 degrees in a strange posture, his eyes fixed on Sanji, and he fell into the sea with a faint mockery on his lips. "Li Luo!" Sanji's face changed drastically, and he kicked Crick directly, but Crick, who had recovered his strength, punched him and sent him flying. This sudden scene caused the Barity restaurant to explode, and the guests were scared and fled in all directions. On the Mary nearby, Nami covered her mouth with her hands and stepped back in disbelief. It was just last night. Suddenly she felt that she had bumped into something. Just as she was about to turn around, she heard Li Luo's playful voice. Chapter 16. "Hey, Luffy!" A voice came from Luffy, who was watching the show. "Who?" Luffy turned his head in surprise, only to see a scarlet eye in front of him. Then the same kaleidoscope symbol flashed in Luffy's eyes, and he ran out of the ship with the crowd in a daze. Li Luo quietly returned to the restaurant, found a chair and sat down again. Looking at the stubborn Sanji, Patty knocked Sanji to the ground with a dunk. "Take him away. Sanji, you should go to the back door occasionally to give food to the guests we drive away. I won't judge whether you are right or I am wrong, but this time you made a mistake in judgment, and it ruined the lives of all of us on the ship. I won't let you mess around anymore. I'm going to protect this store in my own way. Fortunately, there is only one enemy. Even if it's Crick, this is a sea restaurant where pirates come to mess up every day." Patty took out a strange lobster cannon from the cabinet and pointed it at Crick food poisoning cannonball. With a bang, the cannonball, which was comparable to a cannon, flew directly towards Crick. The smoke from the explosion enveloped Crick's body. "There's smoke but no injuries," Li Luo complained. Then he took out his camera and took a few close-up photos of Patty. The blast caused everyone to block their eyes, but when the smoke cleared, Click appeared in front of everyone unscathed. "Alloy armor. Armor harder than steel." Patty, who was still smug, suddenly had a look of fear on his face. The next second, the mechanism of the golden armor opened, and countless guns and cannons stretched out from the gaps in the armor and aimed at the chefs in the restaurant. "You actually gave me such a disgusting dessert, this restaurant is really terrible." After that, countless gunfire flashed in the smoke that never dissipated, and countless bullets poured towards the chefs. Suddenly, the chefs surrounding Sanji were killed or injured. After all, this world is not the comic book that needs to hold a party drawn by Oda who doesn't understand pirates. Li Luo could clearly see that several chefs had died on the spot. Although there are many people in the pirate world who can resist bullets, it is obviously not one of the chefs here. Sanji's face was ashen, and the feeling of regret was growing wildly in his heart. "Stop!" Sanji yelled and rushed towards Click. However, a black shadow suddenly appeared in front of Sanji and knocked him away with a bang. A djinn. It was the pirate he saved. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sanji, he is my captain after all." Akin's face was full of shame, but his hands ruthlessly blocked Sanji's route to attack Click. Patty held the dead chef and yelled at Sanji angrily, "Look at what you have done." "Sanji!" Sanji trembled all over and was knocked out by Akin again. At this time, in terms of physical skills, Akin's strength is definitely much stronger than Sanji. If he hadn't shown mercy, Sanji would have fallen to the ground. In the original book, Akin had been showing mercy to Sanji, and later defeated the old and broken-legged Zeph to threaten Sanji. Now Akin is standing in front of Sanji, and he can't reach Click at all. The death of his companion made him heartbroken. Because of his willfulness, not only did it lead to the death of his companion, but even Zeph's restaurant, which he regarded as a treasure, was about to be robbed. The most important thing is that the problem is that because Luffy was hypnotized by Li Luo, there was no one left to stop Click. With the addition of Akin, with only Sanji and the disabled Zeph, Barity restaurant had no chance of fighting. Click laughed and fired at the chefs recklessly. In just a short while, only Patty and Cannel were left dead. Li Lo watched the battle below coldly on the deck. This is the real scene of the pirate world. The situation where almost no one dies after each battle is just a beautiful vision created by Oda, who knows nothing. You don't want to go down and help? Li Luo suddenly said. What good would it be for me to be disabled? GP's voice came from behind. Li Luo chuckled. Those chefs who died under you will die with regrets after hearing this. Zeph said calmly without any guilt, I am a pirate. After thinking for a while, he added, big pirate. That's right, how could a ruthless man who escaped unscathed from the Grand Line and finally ate his own legs to satisfy his hunger care about the lives of his subordinates? The only softness in his heart was given to Sanji, a child who had the same dream as him. The title of red-footed Zeph was stained with blood. He knew that it was impossible for Sanji to survive on the Grand Line with his personality, so Luffy did not have the opportunity to show his ambition and sense of security at this time. So Zeph was originally prepared to teach Sanji a lesson with the lives of these chefs. Otherwise, he would not feel at ease to let this naive guy go out to find all blue. I'm curious how you survived. GP frowned as he looked at the unharmed Li Luo. He clearly saw that Li Luo's neck had been broken by Click, so there was absolutely no possibility of him surviving. As a war correspondent, it's normal to have some tricks to save your life. Li Luo chuckled. GP looked at Li Luo coldly. What is your purpose? Did you do that on purpose? Don't worry, my goal is the same as yours. Sanji will be the guy who pushes the gears of history in the future, but history written by someone with his personality is obviously not in line with the power of being a role model. Don't you think that if such a naive person saves the world, it will cause immeasurable misleading to the next generation? Li Luo spread his hands and said innocently. GP beside him was confused. What a mess. But Li Luo did not intend to explain to this old shady guy. He took out a musket and walked directly towards Jin, who was fighting with Sanji. Everyone was stunned to see Li Luo, who came back from the dead. You are not dead. Sanji looked at Li Luo in shock. Li Luo grinned. I'm not dead, but they are all dead. I asked you before, didn't I? What if he repays kindness with enmity? You said you would kill him. Sanji was speechless after hearing this. Li Luo took the opportunity to snap a photo of Sanji. He shook the Polaroid camera. And Sanji's gloomy face appeared on the photo. Li Luo happily took out a pen and wrote on the back of the photo. Chapter 17. At this time, Click looked at Li Luo in shock. Why didn't you die? Li Luo sneered and said sarcastically. You are not dead yet, why should I die? Crack was furious. Ajin, kill him. The demon Ajin rushed towards Li Luo without hesitation. He was not as kind to him as Sanji, and Li Luo's behavior of provoking his captain, Click, had already angered Ajin. Because he himself had no ambition, he regarded Click's ambition as his own dream. Before, Click had been humiliated by Li Luo, and he had long wanted to kill this guy. Seeing this, Sanji reminded loudly, be careful. The two crutches with alloy balls smashed directly towards Li Luo. If they were hit, their brains would be splattered. Sanji wanted to come forward to save the situation, but found that he was seriously injured by Ajin before, and there was no time to support him. Just when he was about to burst into tears, he did not realize that Li Luo's right eye had turned into a strange scarlet kaleidoscope. The huge iron crutches went straight through Li Luo's head. Ajin looked at Li Luo in astonishment, who could not be hit. He turned his hand and used the crutches again, but found that the iron ball still went through Li Luo's head, as if Li Luo's body did not exist. Sanji looked at Li Luo in shock and cried out. Brother, are you dead? Is this actually your ghost? Li Luo, who was about to show off, suddenly stumbled. The effect of Shinwei is really like a ghost. A cold-blooded and murderous pirate like Ajin seems to be not afraid of it. What ghost? Even if you become a ghost, I will let you die again. After saying that, he rushed towards Li Luo. Li Luo smiled strangely and took out the musket and pointed it behind him. Everyone looked at Li Luo in surprise. Why did Li Luo point the muzzle behind him when Ajin was in front? However, everyone understood in the next second, because Ajin's body strangely passed through Li Luo's body. Mom! Ghost! Usopp was shaking with fear. Zoro frowned even more, he couldn't figure out how Li Luo did it. At the moment when Ajin and Li Luo's overlapping figures separated, the sound of a musket rang out. A bullet went straight into Ajin's head. Ajin, the ghost who beat Sanji, died in Li Luo's hands inexplicably. At this time, he might be able to dodge bullets and use weapons to knock them away. But he couldn't reach the level of an iron block to catch bullets with his head. Unless it is a rubber man like Luffy, the power of the musket is still very objective. The reason why it is not reflected in the anime is, it's purely because this thing has a slow firing rate and low power at long distances, so it's easy for people to dodge or knock it away. Now Li Luo shot Ajin directly in the face, and this Ajin who can do anything is suddenly in a desperate situation. This is also because Ajin's intelligence is insufficient. If Ajin knew the effect of being, he would never do such a stupid tactical behavior. This is why even the people on the Grand Line are more afraid of the Devil Fruit ability users, because you don't know what kind of ability this thing will produce. And the unknown will cause fear. Click took 2 steps back in shock and scolded. Are you a human or a ghost? Li Luo was too lazy to answer this idiot's question. This guy's physical strength was far worse than Ajin's. It was only by relying on the power of his equipment and his natural strength, coupled with his shameless and unscrupulous way of doing things, that he could thrive in the weakest East Blue Sea. To put it bluntly, he was the same type as the supernova Capone Beeg, who won by numbers. Even without the Devil Fruit, his strength was much stronger than Capone Beeg. Unfortunately, Capone Beeg had a good character and took off on the spot with a castle fruit. Instantly stepped into the pirate world. The second-tier level in the world. But Click was unlucky. Not only did he not have a Devil Fruit, but he ran into Hawkeye who was visiting his relatives in the East Blue Sea just 7 days after entering the Grand Line. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is the most unlucky overlord of the East Blue Sea. At this time, Click looked at the power slowly walking towards him and suddenly showed a look of horror on his face. The weapons on his body poured out towards Li Luo frantically, but all of them went through his body. Even his exclusive battle gun could not touch Li Luo at all. Click was completely panicked. He knelt in front of Li Luo and begged for mercy loudly. Sir, I was wrong. I shouldn't have messed with you. I don't want this restaurant anymore. Please go on your journey in peace. Even Click regarded him as a murderous ghost. Li Luo sneered and put his hand on Click's alloy armor. In the horrified eyes of the crowd, Click's body began to twist into a vortex shape. It was as if the whole person was sucked into a black hole and disappeared. Zoro and others stared at the scene in front of them with wide eyes. Even the knowledgeable GP stared with wide eyes, not knowing what was going on. A smug smile appeared at the corner of Li Luo's mouth. No wonder OB2 likes to wear a mask to show off, this body is really good for playing the role of a master. Just when everyone was immersed in shock, Click's fearless saber was suddenly chopped into several pieces by an invisible force in an instant. The surging waves made Barity shaky. What happened? Everyone looked in astonishment at the direction where the waves were coming from. They saw a small boat that looked like a graveyard slowly approaching from a distance. Li Luo's face showed joy when he saw this. He had finally waited for it. The opportunity to interview the world's greatest swordsman. Li Luo had already seen the shock points rushing into his system. Thinking of this, Li Luo stepped directly on the confused expressions of everyone. The water ran towards the boat. A series of flashes of light made Hawkeye stunned. What the hell? Where is my dignity? Where is my status as a Shishibukai? Do you look down on me? Chapter 18. Hawkeye thought that his reputation was not so kind. After all, he was a man with sharp eyes like an eagle, a reputation that made people tremble with fear when they saw him. You, a reporter, came up to me regardless of your own life and death, and almost put the camera in my face. What do you mean? Hawkeye suddenly felt that it was too merciful to kill a few pirates out of boredom. So he slashed with his sword impatiently, and the huge sword energy instantly split the sea into a gap. The waves overturned many fleeing boats, one of which was the boat where Luffy was. What? Why am I here? The cold sea water awakened Luffy, who was in the illusion. I can't swim. Zoro. Usopp. At number. On the Mary, Usopp suddenly looked in the direction of the sound and saw Luffy, wearing a work apron and a straw hat, splashing in the water. Hey! Where did the road go? Usopp was about to call Zoro, but he found that he had already stepped on the wreckage of the pirate ship and ran to the vicinity of Hawkeye's boat. Usopp's eyes bulged out immediately. It seemed that Zoro was much more worrying than Luffy, who was about to drown. Usopp hurriedly shouted to Zoro. Hey! Zoro, where are you going? It's too dangerous over there. Zoro shouted without turning his head. The reason I went to sea was for this man. You go save Luffy first. I want to challenge him. Usopp Omega Omega. Stop it. Didn't you see what happened to Li Luo just now? The waves gradually calmed down, and Li Luo's intact figure appeared on the sea. Hawkeye frowned and looked at Li Luo in surprise. His observation haki showed that this guy was not very strong, but he could survive his normal attack. Dear Shishibukai, I need to remind you that you are very scary. I am just a legitimate news reporter. Please don't do such a heartless thing to others. Before he finished speaking, Hawkeye slashed at him again, this time with the armament haki attached. This time Hawkeye looked at his slash carefully and found that the slash went straight through Li Luo's body without hurting him at all. Devil fruit user. Hawkeye asked Li Luo in surprise. But even if he was an elemental being, he shouldn't ignore his slashing. Hawkeye stopped swinging his sword at this moment. Hawkeye no longer regarded Li Luo as an ant that angered him. Being able to dodge his two swords, at least he could be regarded as a fellow by Hawkeye. The ants crawled around him and disgusted him. He might crush them to death out of boredom, but as a human being, he would not turn against them because of a rashness. It was obvious that Hawkeye admitted that Li Luo was qualified to take pictures of him. Li Luo shrugged helplessly as he looked at Hawkeye, who was not going to pay attention to him. Anyway, he was just here to take pictures. Only with enough evidence and materials could more people believe the news he made up. Cough, recorded news. USO, at UN number. Save me. Luffy gurgled and sank to the bottom of the sea. Li Luo kindly reminded Usopp on the Mary. Your captain is dying. Usopp shuddered, but saw only a series of pearl bubbles on the sea surface. Shit! Usopp exclaimed and jumped directly into the sea. At this time, Nami looked at Li Luo deeply, climbed up the mast skillfully and opened the sail. Under the blowing of the sea breeze, the Mary sailed straight into the distance. Johnny and Joseph's boat, which was originally tied to the Mary, was cut off by Nami. Johnny and Joseph watched the Mary go farther and farther in confusion. It was not until there was only a black shadow left that they reacted. Big sister! Where are you going? When Usopp pulled Luffy to the surface of the sea, he shouted, Nami! Pull us up quickly! However, after waiting for a long time without any response, he looked up and said, Where is my ship? Where is my Mary? Usopp, who looked confused, had to take Luffy to the Barity restaurant for emergency rescue. On the other side, Zoro was staring at Hawkeye with burning eyes and trembling all over. At this moment, he was both excited and scared. He was excited that the person he was looking for finally showed up, but he was scared that the two normal attacks that Hawkeye had just slashed at Li Luo were simply beyond his reach. Hawkeye no longer paid attention to Li Luo, and looked around for Luffy. Hawkeye couldn't help but take a look at the future that Shanks had bet his arm on. Just like Hawkeye, who was the least likely to appear, appeared at the 7 Warlords of the Sea meeting convened by Sengoku for the Straw Hat Pirates. He was still very curious, especially about the guy who made his buddy bet his arm. There were not many people who could compete with him in swordsmanship, and finally there was someone who was equally matched, and his hand was gone. He had to take a look. However, just as he found Luffy, who was full of sea water, Zoro's excited voice came from the side. I want to challenge you. The world's greatest swordsman. Hawkeye looked over impatiently. Why did everyone come to poke him today? Was the opponent drifting, or was he unable to hold the black knife? For a moment, Hawkeye's sharp eyes looked straight at Zoro. Chapter 19. If you were also a swordsman, you would understand the gap between you and me, right? Hawkeye said coldly to Zoro with disdain. I went out to sea to see you. Zoro tied the scarf on his arm to his head. Hawkeye was surprised to see Zoro showing no fear. As a swordsman, he could face him without flinching, which meant he had passed the test in terms of willpower. What is your goal? Zoro's eyes were filled with enthusiasm, and he said firmly to Hawkeye. The strongest. Hawkeye's face suddenly changed from contempt to an interested expression and said with a smile. How foolish. Zoro pulled out the Wado Ikimonji and pointed at Hawkeye and said firmly. I see you are also free, let's have a contest. Hearing this, Hawkeye showed a hint of disdain on his face again. A sword with only power has no strength. To challenge someone knowing that you are going to die is not courage, but stupidity. If Zoro had not seen him attacking Li Luo and challenged him, Hawkeye would have thought that this was courage. However, to challenge him after seeing him attack was stupidity. Li Luo also realized this at this time. He looked at the angry Hawkeye and muttered in his heart. Holy shit, this won't kill Zoro, right? With Zoro's current strength, if he gets hit by any of the 2 strikes from me, he will definitely be torn into pieces. Hawkeye looked at Zoro with disdain. Contest? You pathetic weakling, if you were really a first-rate swordsman, even without a fight, we would be able to see the difference in strength between you and me. As soon as Hawkeye finished speaking, he instantly appeared from the boat on the wreckage of the wreckage more than 10 meters away. Li Luo's pupil shrank, and the Sharingan in his eyes spun wildly. So fast! Li Luo was shocked. If Hawkeye gave up the head-on fight and chose a sneak attack, it would be difficult for him to capture Hawkeye's trajectory and activate his divine power with his current dynamic vision. The only speed in the world's martial arts is invincible, just like the 4th Hokage pressed Obito to the ground with a ball. Hawkeye's full speed was not something he could react to at this moment. Li Luo shook his head helplessly. It's still too weak. Zoro looked at Hawkeye, who suddenly appeared in front of him and clenched the Wado Ikemonji in his hand. He couldn't see Hawkeye's movements at all. Hawkeye looked at Zoro sarcastically and said, "Dare to draw your sword against me, should I say you are courageous or ignorant?" Zoro's fighting spirit was not intimidated by Hawkeye's powerful strength at all. Instead, he had a big smile on his face. It's because of my ambition. And the promise between me and my best friend. Looking at Zoro holding the long sword, Hawkeye pulled out the knife from his chest with a look of disdain. I am different from a stupid beast that uses all its strength to hunt rabbits. Unfortunately, I can't find a smaller knife. Zoro's face changed instantly. He felt insulted like never before. He rushed towards Mihawk like a madman. There should be a limit to how much you can look down on others. Don't regret it after you die. Demon Slash. Zoro's move that no one in the East Blue Sea can resist stabbed directly at Hawkeye. However, Hawkeye easily blocked Zoro's 3 swords with a toy-like knife. What? Zoro tried his best but couldn't move at all. Hawkeye used his smallest strength to block the weakest point of Zoro's move. Snap! 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 Li Luo's full range of flashing lights made the originally serious duel look a little funny. Hawkeye's eyes twitched again and again, and he used the knife to cut again and flew towards Li Luo. With a bang, the huge battleship wreckage was cut off smoothly by Hawkeye's slash again. It's scary, okay? I'm just a witness for you too. Li Luo pretended to be scared and patted his chest in shock. Seeing Li Luo's appearance, even Hawkeye couldn't help but show a vein on his forehead. At this time, Zoro's eyes were wide open and he roared unwillingly. The world can't be so far away. He retracted his moves and slashed at Hawkeye. Li Luo touched his chin and said, the sword path is messed up. After another 600 shock points E-level lottery, Li Luo has upgraded the basic swordsmanship, 1/10, to the intermediate swordsmanship, 15/100. His understanding of the swordsmanship of pirates is no less than that of Zoro at this time. After all, the swordsmanship in the pirate world does not focus on skills. After learning Haki, it basically returns to its original nature and wins by strengthening strength and speed. So Li Luo's swordsmanship level at this time can be seen from Zoro's moves. At this time, Hawkeye seemed more and more impatient under Zoro's fierce attack. Taking advantage of a gap in Zoro's moves, the toy-like knife went straight into Zoro's chest. Big brother! Joseph and Johnny were anxious to rush over to help, but they were held down by Luffy. Stop! Do you want to humiliate Zoro? Luffy shouted firmly, Zoro hasn't lost yet. While holding down the 2 men, he clenched his teeth and forced himself not to rush out. Hawkeye looked at Luffy in surprise. He suddenly felt that the person Shanks found seemed okay. Then he frowned at Zoro, who was bleeding. Is this guy a crew member recruited by that guy? A little weak. Chapter 20. Looking at Zoro, who was exhausted due to being too anxious, Hawkeye Mihawk frowned and asked. What are you carrying? What is your desire to become stronger? Weak. Although Hawkeye's knife was stabbing at Zoro's heart, Hawkeye didn't want to kill him, so the knife didn't penetrate his heart. However, Zoro stood up slowly with Hawkeye's knife. Do you want to be stabbed in the heart? Why don't you dodge? Blood was flowing out of Zoro's chest and his mouth. I don't know either. I just feel that if I take a step back here, everything I have done before will become a joke. Stupid, there is no victory without defeat. At this time, Li Luo on the side suddenly said to Soran. Where did your original intention go when you fought against Kuina? After Kuina's death, did this small place in the East Sea make you so arrogant? Zoro and Hawkeye turned their heads to look at Li Luo in surprise. Li Luo spread his hands frivolously and said. Don't look at me like that. After all, I can be called a swordsman now, right? I prefer to be more courageous after setbacks than to be invincible, because the lessons learned from failure are always more than those from victory. What kind of hero is it to bully the weak? When facing someone stronger than you, admit defeat, learn from the lessons, and then turn them into your own strength. This is what a strong person should do. Never admit defeat? This is the most foolish belief. Most of the time, living is much more difficult than dying. Zoro didn't know why Li Luo knew about Kuina, but he was shocked after listening to what Li Luo said. Just as Li Luo said, he obviously carried Kuina's dream, but now he would rather die than admit defeat. Li Luo's words made him wake up. Hawkeye's eyes were shining at this time. Li Luo's realm was much higher than Zoro. Although Zoro was also a blockhead, since he was Luffy's subordinate and had a good kendo talent, Hawkeye originally planned to use the black knife to wake Zoro up and let him feel the taste of defeat. Kendo that has never failed is imperfect, because there is no so-called invincible kendo. Hawkeye also fought step by step since he was a child. You have to know that the previous world's #1 swordsman was red-haired Shanks. Until his dominant left hand blocked the Straw Hat Boy. He is left-handed. In Hawkeye's view, this kind of belief of never admitting defeat is simply a sign of cowardice. A truly strong person will face his weaknesses and put down his pride. This is why when Zoro knelt in front of Hawkeye and asked him to be his disciple, Hawkeye agreed to him. Because at that time, Zoro truly stepped into a new realm of kendo. He was no longer the swordsman who blindly pursued victory. He was no longer the swordsman who became stronger in pursuit of the strongest. Hawkeye looked at Li Luo and couldn't wait to show off his skills. He directly pulled out the black knife behind him and pointed it at Li Luo and said, "Boy, draw your sword." Li Luo's eyes lit up immediately. He directly took a picture of Hawkeye pulling out the black knife and standing with Zoro at night. Tisk tisk, all done. Li Luo looked at the photos he took with satisfaction and laughed. Such photos will attract more people's attention. Hawkeye on the opposite side felt uncomfortable as if he had eaten a fly. Damn it, do you have any self-esteem as a swordsman? What are you doing with a camera? Li Luo looked at Hawkeye who challenged him and waved his hand. Are you kidding me? I'm just a reporter. Why do you always challenge me to a sword fight? I'm a weak chicken who can't even tie a chicken. Everyone looked at Li Luo who was walking on the sea as if it were flat ground, and remembered that he had just easily killed a Jin and Click, and they cursed in their hearts, "You are so weak." At this time, Zoro was awakened by Li Luo's words. He stopped approaching Hawkeye and slowly backed away, pulling the knife out of his chest. Facing the pain piercing his heart, Zoro didn't frown. He said to Hawkeye solemnly, "I lost." Hawkeye on the opposite side finally showed a hint of interest at this time. He knew that Zoro had found his original intention at this time. With the promise of a friend, he became the world's #1 swordsman, instead of dying on the way to becoming the world's #1 swordsman with the promise of a friend. From this moment on, Hawkeye truly recognized Zoro. Before that, he had always thought that this guy was just a weakling who only saw the world from a well. If it weren't for Luffy, he would have died here long ago. What kind of cherishing talent is pure nonsense? When Luffy faced Usopp for the first time, he once said that since he had drawn his gun, he must be prepared to die. If Hawkeye really respected Zoro, he would have killed him with a knife long ago. The reason why Zoro was spared was nothing more than for Luffy's sake. After all, this was the future that his best friend had gambled on to become the world's #1 swordsman. He couldn't just come for a stroll and cut off one of the future's arms. But this time it was different. Hawkeye seemed to see the future Zoro kneeling on the ground and worshipping him as his teacher. For the first time, he showed a serious expression and said, "Boy, tell me your name." Zoro put his 3 swords into a triangular windmill shape and said, "Roronoa Zoro. Please teach me." Hawkeye smiled when he heard this, and he drew out his black knife and pointed it at Zoro. "Come on, I'll show you how big the world is." Seeing this, Li Luo smiled slightly, and a vortex slowly appeared with the Mangekyo Sharingan as the center. Li Luo's figure slowly disappeared from the spot. Because he knew that since Zoro opened his mouth and said the word teach, the nature of this challenge has changed. And what he has to do now is to catch up with Nami, who has already set off. The purpose of this trip to Barity has been achieved. At this time, Zoro and Hawkeye both focused their minds on the other side. They did not show any hesitation about Li Luo's disappearance. The two swords in Zoro's hands rotated at high speed. Chapter 21. On the Mary. Nami stood alone on the bow of the Mary. What a nice bunch of guys. Nami frowned but forced a smile while muttering to herself. I wonder if I can still be their companion next time we meet. As she spoke, Nami couldn't stop her tears from flowing. Can we meet again? Nami couldn't help crying on the deck anymore, hugging her shoulders. I really want to be free as soon as possible, Belmare. Crack. The expression is good. This is the feeling I want. The sound of the camera sounded from Nami's ears along with a frivolous voice. Ah! Nami screamed and took several steps back in fear. She looked up and saw Li Luo swinging his Polaroid camera and smiling at her. Nami wiped the tears from her face and said unhappily. You came out of nowhere like a ghost. Li Luo laughed evilly and said sinisterly. Didn't Crick kill me? I am a ghost now, a ghost on the sea. Nami was frightened and took a few steps back, looking at Li Luo warily. Li Luo laughed out loud when he saw this. Usopp was the only timid person on the Straw Hat ship who was a little more timid than Nami. The little thief cat cried like a little cat. Li Luo laughed at Nami. Nami, who knew she was being swiped, went crazy and roared at Li Luo. Do you know how terrifying Eren is? Thinking of this, Nami couldn't help but tremble. It's your freedom to interview anyone. I will only take you to A Long Paradise. I still want to solve this matter in my own way. Even though Li Luo had exposed A Long's inferior lies, Nami still held a glimmer of hope. What if A Long kept his promise? As long as you are happy, Li Luo nodded nonchalantly. This is the belief that has supported Nami to live for the past 8 years. Seeing that she is about to succeed, she will not be willing to give up if she does not try. Li Luo did not say much. He walked back to the cabin and took out the photos taken today. Zoro drew his sword to challenge Hawkeye, and Hawkeye calmly responded with a black knife. The first-person perspective photos of Hawkeye slashing Li Luo several times looked extremely shocking, and Li Luo showed a malicious expression at the corner of his mouth. Finally, I can become a regular employee. Shock. The world's greatest swordsman failed. The new generation of great swordsmen challenges Hawkeye. The story begins with Mihawk chasing after Click in a small boat. Click died and arrived at Barity. The story of servility and ingratitude aroused the indignation of readers. Then Hawkeye sailed out in the sea in a small boat as an invincible master. The boat with green candles lit looked particularly strange and mysterious. Then Li Luo attached a few cool portraits of Hawkeye. The cilia on Hawkeye's face were clearly visible. They were the close ups taken before Hawkeye chopped Li Luo. Then there were a few domineering shots of Hawkeye swinging his sword from the front, with the sword energy rushing straight to the camera. Then a few photos of the wreckage of the fearless saber of the Click pirates were added. No pirate can escape from me. The scene transitioned to a photo of Zoro holding 3 knives to provoke Hawkeye. What followed was a battle between Zoro and Hawkeye's hard victory and acknowledgement of Zoro's strength. It ended with Zoro's last sentence, please teach me. The photo of the two people fighting each other ended, leaving a huge suspense. Li Luo looked at the cover page composed of 4 comics he had pieced together with satisfaction. Which reporter could record the entire event with photos? Such a close-up and uninterrupted comic story made this report an extremely eye-catching news. The comic stories published by Germa 66 in Baha'i are very popular in Baha'i. And Li Luo's special news was recorded with photos. And the protagonist is Hawkeye Mihawk, one of the 7 warlords of the sea and the world's greatest swordsman. In terms of style, Germa 66's comics are not even worthy of carrying shoes. After writing, Li Luo directly used the fax phone bug to transmit the news to the headquarters of the news agency. At this time, Morgans was melancholy and distressed because there was no explosive news in the news agency. As an avid media person, it is his habit to stir up trouble. Nowadays, the pirate world has maintained a balance for a long time. Whether it is pirates, navy, or the Revolutionary Army, they are all quietly developing their own strength. The 4 emperors occupy the New World, the Navy occupies the Grand Line, and the Revolutionary Army is like a mouse that can't be found. The 3 forces develop independently without interfering with each other, which makes Morgans feel bored. The only big news may be the civil strife in the kingdom of Alabasta. After all, it was once one of the 20 royal families that had the opportunity to be promoted to the celestial dragons. Now that it is rebelled by others, it is somewhat interesting. Unfortunately, it is only a little bit, which does not interest Morgans, who is eager for breaking news. Just when he was about to sort out the intelligence from all over the world to see if he could do something, a subordinate rushed in excitedly with a few faxes. Chapter 22. Morgans looked up at the employees in surprise. There is a big event going on right now, and the most likely one is that last year, Captain Thatch of the 3rd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates was killed by his subordinate Blackbeard. And now the culprit Blackbeard has not been caught yet, which is quite strange. You know, cannibalism is an unforgivable crime in the Whitebeard Pirates. But that happened half a year ago, and it is not considered to be a rare news. Now the assistant is so excited. This aroused Morgan's interest. He was stunned when he took the news manuscript in the assistant's hand. Why are there so many photos? Suddenly he saw the title and photos at the beginning, and his pupil shrank. Shocked. The world's greatest swordsman failed. The new generation of great swordsmen challenged Hawkeye. Morgans was immediately excited. What the hell? The world's greatest swordsman changed hands? This is a big event. Morgans excitedly looked at the news release below, and his eyes suddenly lit up again. This is the first time he has seen a news story composed mainly of photos. The most important thing is that the angles of these photos are really amazing. It's as if the camera was put on Hawkeye's face. And that slash, it seems to be shot at his face. Hawkeye, me, you and that number. Could it be that Hawkeye cooperated with the photo shoot? Morgans then shook his head. How could this be possible? Hawkeye is so arrogant, how could he cooperate with reporters to take photos? But looking at the angle of the camera, it seemed as if the slash was coming directly at the camera. Morgans thought for a long time and didn't know where this photo came from. He looked through all the photos and texts carefully. Just when he was enjoying it, the photo of Zorro and Hawkeye fighting came to an abrupt end. At the end, a few huge black words made him feel depressed and vomit blood. To know what happened next, please stay tuned for the next analysis. Morgans. What a psycho! Did they fight or not? You've laid so much groundwork in the early stages, why are you leaving me with a suspense? A word, or an idea, suddenly popped up in Morgan's mind. Urge for more updates. He now just wanted to send a razor blade to this hateful author who was halfway through updating. Morgans was so angry that he slammed the table and shouted, "Who sent this news?" The assistant quickly said, "Li Luo, an intern reporter from the headquarters." A polite face flashed through Morgan's mind. It was Li Luo who had recently applied to become a resident reporter at the headquarters. The condition for becoming a formal reporter from an intern reporter at the headquarters is to write a piece of big news that is big enough to make the headlines. Morgans read the report over and over again, and finally put down the press release with a sense of unfulfilled desire. Damn it, I can't make myself uncomfortable. Morgans waved his wings. Extra issue. This report will be the headline of tomorrow's news. The assistant said yes immediately, and then he asked Morgans. Will we add a column for this Li Luo in the future? Morgans nodded at him. He is a talent, pay more attention to him, his photos are much better than that of the Photo King. The Photo King, nicknamed Photo Man, is obsessed with taking photos and can sneak into any place. When the shutter is pressed, he will shout fire, so he was called Flame Photographer. It was this photographer who made countless pirates' photos appear on the wanted notice. If it was known that it was him, it is estimated that he had more enemies than the celestial dragons. At this time, he was still a navy, and the wanted notice that Sanji had not opened was taken by him. The assistant received the order and hurriedly retreated with the press release. For a time, the photos taken by Li Luo were scattered all over the world like snowflakes. Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. On the other side, Li Luo on the Mary received a transfer order to become a formal reporter at the news agency headquarters. Li Luo's face was full of excitement for a while. In this way, he has an exclusive column, although it is not big. But there is no need to worry about the news he handed in being rejected. After all, there are too many reporters around the world, plus many whistleblowers. Even as a daily newspaper, the possibility of Li Luo's press release being selected in the newspaper is not great. Now that he has become a columnist, as long as he publishes the news, he must have a page that belongs to him. In this way, even if there is no blockbuster news, He has a stable income of shocking points. Moreover, the column is a 4C column, which means that his reports can be seen in all 4 Cs, including the Grand Route. The traffic is completely different from the previous Donghai daily section. His shock point income is more than 4 times more than the previous shock point. Thinking of this, Li Luo's face suddenly became happy. He turned on the divine power and was sucked into the divine power space. At this time, Click was shouting in the divine power space full of large pillars with a look of collapse. Sir! I was wrong. Help me! Li Luo slowly descended from the sky and landed on a platform not far away. He looked at the somewhat collapsed Click and smiled. Chapter 23. The pitch-black space, the stone platforms of different heights, and the bottomless abyss constitute the mysterious space constructed by Obito's eyes of spiritual reflection. This may be a portable space that is so useful that it cannot be any better for the user. But for the enemy, it is a huge black room isolated from the world and without any living things. Click, who was imprisoned here, experienced terror, despair, and numbness. He felt that being in solitary confinement in prison was like this. He couldn't even tell time in the total darkness. Without a reference, he had no idea how much time had passed. Click, who was almost driven crazy, begged for mercy loudly to the people around him. The grey light that suddenly lit up illuminated the Kamui space. Young man, do you want to live? Li Luo's voice suddenly came. Click looked at Li Luo, who fell from the sky with surprise, and responded loudly. I want to. I want to. As long as you let me go, I'm willing to do anything for you. Li Luo smiled crookedly, and the scarlet Mangekyo pierced straight into Crick's mind. Illusion hypnosis. Although Li Luo did not draw the illusion eye technique of Kota Amatsukami, as a Mangekyo that can control the tailed beasts and control the Mizu cage, he has a natural talent for illusion. It is still possible to control a small pirate with a collapsed will. The unfortunate Crick worked hard to form a large pirate group of 50 ships and 5,000 people, but as soon as he entered the Grand Line, he encountered the world's highest combat power who was visiting relatives. When he came back, he was unlucky to meet Li Luo again. He finally had a full meal, but was locked up in a small dark room by Li Luo for more than 10 hours. At this time, Crick's psychological defense line completely collapsed, and Li Luo easily used the Sharingan to hypnotize Crick with illusion. Li Luo looked at the respectful Crick with a motherly smile, and directly dragged him back to the merry. Hehe, East Blue Sea Overlord vs. Along Paradise, just think about it, it's a good gimmick. After becoming an official reporter of the headquarters, if you don't publish a news every day, it would be a pure waste of the privilege of your column. But you can't write all the trivial things in the column. If you do that, Morgans will definitely cancel your qualification as an official reporter. After all, you can't use the column to write a few news releases. So Li Luo must make some news that can be published in the newspaper. And this time, Click's battle with Along Paradise was just his impromptu idea. One is the East Blue Sea Overlord Bureau, who is gifted and has a strange power that ordinary people can't compare with. He can wield a large gun weighing more than 2,000 kilograms, 1 ton, with one arm. He is equipped with steel armor, diamond gloves, needle armor, poison gas bombs and other weapons. The main weapon is the large gun, which will explode with gunpowder when attacking. The other is a former cadre of the Sun Pirates and captain of the Dragon Pirates. He has 10 times the strength of humans and teeth that can easily crush cannonballs. Both of them belong to the leading pirates of the East Blue Sea, and their bounties are close to or have reached 20 million. Such a bounty amount is not too weak even in the first half of the Grand Line. After all, a bounty of over 100 million can make you a supernova. And the number of supernovas every year is only in the single digits, and only Luffy's year has more than a dozen of them, so he is called the worst generation. There is no news, but we have to make news. Li Luo looked at Click, who was kneeling respectfully in front of him, nodded with satisfaction, and lay down to sleep. It has to be said that the dormitory of the Merry in the early days was really small. Except for Nami's exclusive bedroom, Luffy and others could only squeeze into a cabin, and Li Luo was not shameless enough to compete with girls for dormitories. Of course, it would be different if they slept in the same bed. Unfortunately, Nami disagreed. The next day, a scream woke Li Luo up. Li Luo opened his eyes in surprise, but found that Nami was pointing at her side and shouting. K, why is he here? It turned out that Nami, who was calling Li Luo for dinner, saw Click. Li Luo yawned, stretched his waist and laughed. I influenced him and decided to help you deal with Aaron. Nami. Looking at Click, who didn't explain, Nami nodded doubtfully. Come out for dinner. Li Luo nodded, threw a few military ration pills to Click, and followed Nami out. He doesn't need to eat? Wasn't he so hungry before? Nami asked curiously, looking at Crick, who hadn't done anything. He has turned over a new leaf and doesn't need to eat anymore. Nami. At this time, a newsbird landed on the bow of the Mary. Nami took out Bailey as usual and wanted to buy today's newspaper. However, the newsbird stretched out its wings to her and made a 2 sign with its feathers. What? Today's newspaper fee is doubled. You are robbing me. Nami angrily scolded the newsbird while pinching her waist. I tell you, if you keep raising the price every time there is big news, no one will buy it soon. The newsbird on the bow scratched its head with its wings with an innocent look on its face. The price is not decided by it, and it is useless to tell it. Just when Nami was about to take out 1,000 Baileys with a painful heart, Li Luo handed the work permit to the newsbird. Seeing this, the newsbird's eyes lit up, saluted Li Luo, dropped a newspaper and flew away. Nami was overjoyed. You buy newspapers for free? Li Luo was immediately furious. Even when I said I could save Kikyoxi village, I didn't see you so happy. At this moment, Li Luo's backstage suddenly started scrolling like crazy. Chapter 24. Li Luo's eyes widened, with a look of ecstasy on his face. He underestimated the headlines of the news agency, and also underestimated the appeal of Hawkeye. After the morning newspaper was spread out, countless shocking points soared like a screen full of shocking points. The number of shocking points rose like a stream of water. The photos taken by Li Luo were so shocking, and so real. Everyone felt that a great swordsman had risen in the East Blue Sea to challenge Hawkeye. After all, the photos taken by Li Luo were so deceptive, especially the last one with the hedging ending. It was like the feeling of the excessive sass giving the End Valley a wave. That kind of evenly matched impact gave people an extra shock. Is this World of Warcraft hunters so strong? I didn't expect that a real dragon would appear in the small East Blue Sea. Damn, who reported this T/M news? What's the ending? It's shocking. Who of them lost the fight? Idiot, didn't you read the title? Hawkeye must have lost. The new world's greatest swordsman is born. Hehe, has Hawkeye been defeated? He was defeated by the weakling from the East Blue Sea. Maybe he is just in vain. In the Grand Line, the big guys in the New World, both in the open and underground worlds, discussed today's headlines. On a candlelit boat in the doldrums, Hawkeye casually chopped the attacking giant Sea King into several pieces, and then looked at the newspaper in his hand with a face full of MMP. He basically guessed who published this report. There was no one else except that bastard reporter who stuck his face close to him. The key point is that he carefully read the photos and text in this report. Basically, the original words and photos of himself and Zoro were used. But the problem is, the order of this trademark does not match the person who spoke at all. Every photo and text in the news is real, but when put together, it becomes a completely different story. This made Hawkeye have no idea how to look at this newspaper. If Hawkeye was also a transmigrator, he would probably curse. Damn it, this is illegal editing, taking things out of context. Especially Zoro, who rushed to the actual combat trick at the end, seemed to be at a disadvantage and took the initiative to attack. Hawkeye watched it over and over again, and finally summed it up in one word: fuck. Then he drove straight through the combelt towards the New World with a depressed look on his face. He was going to find the man with the broken hand and give him a good beating. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't be so disgusting. Li Luo's report met many ratings of the war correspondent system. It was real, shocking, and many people believed it from the bottom of their hearts. Especially the group of chefs died and the diners ran away. Only Zeph and Sanji were left alive in the entire Barity restaurant. It cannot be said that there is no evidence of innocence, and it is extremely difficult to explore the truth. This also gave the fake news, which was not reliable at all, a huge amount of shock points. Today, Li Luo sat on Luffy's exclusive sheep head and laughed foolishly. Nami looked at Li Luo, who suddenly became stupid with a face full of question marks. What on earth makes you so happy? Nami asked in confusion. Li Luo didn't hear him because he was immersed in the pleasure of the surge in shock points. As time went by, basically everyone who could see this news had seen it. There might be aftermath, but the real strong people would keep abreast of current events. Li Luo looked at the shock points in his system, his face full of uncontrollable surprise. 113,653 points. It took him a year to accumulate all the novice gift packs, and he could open 11 of them in just one day. This was enough for an A-level lottery and a B-level lottery. According to Li Luo's calculations, the rewards in the novice gift pack, even the Kamui, were probably only at the B level. And now he could have a lottery with a minimum of A level, and a lottery with a minimum of no less than Kaleidoscope Kamui. Li Luo jumped off the sheep head of the Mary, and ran to the bathroom to take a good bath while Nami was confused. Bathing and burning incense. He devoutly worshipped all the gods and Buddhas he knew, and then excitedly found a direction that looked better for Feng Shui and sat cross-legged. System. Draw. First, 10 D-level padding prizes. Li Luo excitedly waved his hands and said loudly. Currently has 113,653 shock points. The system is drawing a lottery, shock points -1000. Congratulations on obtaining stamina +10, fire style, great fireball technique, swordsmanship +10, eye power +10, swordsmanship +10, eye power +10, armament haki +1, observation haki +1, conqueror haki +1, armament haki +1. Li Luo suddenly felt that his body was being rapidly strengthened, and the attributes on the attribute panel instantly became much more luxurious. Host, Li Luo. Race, human. Bloodline, Thousand Hand Clan. Technique, chakra refining technique. Talents, throwing mastery, non-upgradable. Intermediate swordsmanship, 55/100. Intermediate taijutsu, 20/100. Primary armament haki, 2/1000. Primary observation haki, 1/1000. Primary conqueror haki, 1/1000. Skills, Manjiki Sharingan, single, 3-body technique, duplicate, substitute, transformation, wood style, grafting technique, fire style, great fireball technique. Chapter 25. The prize pool in the D-level lottery still has the most attribute points. It's just that it has increased tenfold compared to the E-level lottery, as if the increase in this attribute is similar to the system's consolation prize. What surprised Li Luo was that the D-level lottery has already appeared in the advanced prize. That is haki. In the world of pirates, only the strong who master haki can become the real top strong in this world. Obtaining haki is equivalent to successfully opening the ticket to the top strong. Although it is only a beginner, Li Luo can already practice haki through training. The memory after winning haki tells him that the so-called haki is actually a kind of chi application. It's like the internal force in the martial arts world, the chakra in the world of Naruto, the chi in the world of Under One Person and the haki in the world of pirates are all manifestations of the same goal. It's just that each world uses chi in different ways, resulting in different effects. The haki in the world of pirates is more like a body training method. While tempering the body, the haki is attached to the body to form a body energy shield similar to Genki. The advanced armament haki Ryu Sakura is like the internal force practiced to a high level, from bright power to dark power. In the final analysis, it is all a kind of energy application. Unlike internal strength, chakra, and chi, the world of pirates is equivalent to turning external training into internal training. Through the return of life, the energy of a large amount of food is absorbed to strengthen the body to the extreme, so that the domineering spirit is born in the body. In other worlds, the energy in the body can be directly cultivated through martial arts, chakra refining, and 8 strange techniques. This is why the strong in the world of pirates is much stronger than the body of ninjas and martial arts masters. But this does not mean that the strong in other worlds are not as good as the world of pirates. On the contrary, although the strength of middle and high-level fighters in the world of pirates is stronger than other worlds. But at the real top level, it is the other world that is stronger than the pirates. It's like comparing Naruto with the world of pirates. At first glance, the captain level strong in the world of pirates can easily beat all ninjas including those below the level of shadow. But once the ninja reaches the super shadow level of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, it is enough to match the strength of the 4 emperors and admirals in the world of pirates. Not to mention the 6 paths level that crushes the super shadow level. It is not a level of combat power that can be achieved in the pirate world. And this is what really makes Li Luo happy. Li Luo can practice haki through chakra refining technique. As long as the refined chakra is operated according to the operation mode of haki, the chakra can be expressed in the form of haki. In other words, he does not have to train his body to the limit before practicing haki, but only needs to increase his haki by refining chakra. The system will incorporate chakra into the domineering system. Li Luo silently said to the system in his heart. Since they are all energy and can be shared, they can naturally be materialized as the same attribute. Ding dong. Sorting. Intermediate armament haki, entanglement, 25/10,000. Primary observation haki, 217/1000. Intermediate conqueror haki, free control, 23/10,000. Li Luo was stunned when he looked at the values on the panel, as if he had not expected the situation in front of him. After incorporating the energy of chakra into the calculation of haki, both armament haki and conqueror haki have entered the intermediate level. However, there was no obvious increase in observation haki. Li Luo suspected that the value of more than 200 was due to the bonus of dynamic vision brought by his Sharingan pupil power, and had nothing to do with chakra. Li Luo looked at the attribute panel and suddenly realized. The development level of chakra and the development level of armament haki can be said to be exactly the same. Armament haki is divided into 4 levels: hardening, entanglement, external, internal destruction. Hardening is the most common and basic way to use armament haki in the new world. Covering the body with armament haki can make the body harder than steel, and can improve one's own defense and attack power. Entanglement is to entangle the gaseous armament haki outside the body, which can improve one's own defense and attack power. At the same time, it can be entangled on weapons, and on flying objects, arrows and bullets, for a certain period of time. It can be used together with hardening. External release is to gather armament haki on the hands or weapons and release them, which directly evolves into substantial attack power or defense. It can deliver a powerful impact to repel the enemy, form a protective wall, and even defend against invisible attacks. When the 3 admirals joined forces to block Whitebeard's air shock in front of the execution platform, they used this level of armament haki. And the so-called internal destruction is to release the armament haki and pass through the surface of the object to directly destroy the inside of the object, which is the well-known Ryu Sakura. On the other hand, when looking at the use of chakra by ninjas, in the first stage, ninjas attach chakra to their bodies to climb trees and tread water. This degree of use happens to correspond to the entanglement in the armament haki. The second stage is to develop changes in the nature of chakra, just like Asuma's wind blade, which happens to correspond to the release of armament haki, and can attack the enemy from a distance. As for the more advanced Ryu Sakura, it corresponds to the chakra scalpel of medical ninjas such as Kabuto Yakushi and Tsunade among ninjas, which can directly cut muscles, blood vessels, etc. in the body without hurting the skin. Chapter 26. Chakra, on the other hand, is a mixture of physical energy and spiritual energy generated by 130 trillion cells in the body. If the physical energy generated by 130 trillion cells in the body corresponds to armament haki, then spiritual energy obviously corresponds to conqueror haki. Conqueror haki in the pirate world is also divided into 4 levels. Primary level. It bursts out due to high emotions. Conqueror haki is not trained, but only increases in power as the user grows physically and mentally. In the early stages, one is unaware of one's own power. It is often triggered by emotions such as anger, which can stun people around, but cannot be precisely controlled. This is what happened when Luffy first completely exploded in the war on the top. Intermediate level. Control freely with one's own will. As mental power increases, it can be controlled according to one's own will. From the timing of use to the power, as well as the scope of influence, it is under control. When fighting against a large number of opponents, it can exert great power. This is the level that Luffy reached after 2 years of hard training under Rayleigh. And the next level is advanced. Eliminate the opponent with coercion. A true overlord who has both mind, skills, and body can radiate his domineering power in all directions just by increasing his momentum. It can be said that his domineering power is always in the state of activation. Its pressure can shake the ship, and even make a battle-hardened general fall to the ground when passing by. The domineering power at this stage can already have an impact on reality. When Red Hair went to find Whitebeard, the hull was broken and the clouds were torn apart, which belonged to this level. As for the last level, it is naturally the domineering color entanglement that Teacher Kai personally taught Luffy to use. Wrapping the domineering color domineering around weapons or attacks will enhance the attack power. It can actually attack the enemy without touching the opponent within a certain distance. Only a very small number of top-level strong men can do it. The spiritual energy that makes up chakra corresponds to the domineering color domineering. Unlike physical energy, the development level of spiritual energy in Naruto is obviously much higher than that of the domineering color domineering in the world of pirates. Compared with the shallow application of Conqueror's Haki, the application of spiritual energy in Naruto is much more advanced. In the early stage of Conqueror's Haki, it is basically to use powerful spiritual energy for mental shock. Just like Zabuza's murderous aura and Orochimaru's Naraku knowing technique. On the other hand, Naruto's spiritual energy, from the lowest level that can be broken by disrupting chakra, to the pupil-type illusion that can only be disrupted and broken by other people's chakra. Then to the Kurama clan that can control the five senses, create an illusion world, and materialize illusions. Then to the final form of spiritual energy, Yindun. Using spiritual energy, you can create a material image out of nothing. This is the final form of spiritual energy cultivation. On the other hand, the training of the body on the pirate side is far higher than spiritual energy, and the use of Conqueror's Haki is also quite rough. This is why Lee Luo's mental shock to Hobadai with the Mangekyo will show the effect of Conqueror's Haki. And this energy merger also made Lee Luo understand the difference between the two world systems. His chakra was split and merged into Armament Haki and Conqueror Haki. As for Observation Haki, if Lee Luo guessed correctly, it corresponds to the natural energy in Naruto. Because Naruto manga 418 clearly pointed out that natural energy helps to perceive different chakras. This corresponds to the observation haki that can make people's five senses sharper and can detect the breath and emotional changes of surrounding creatures. And because Lee Luo did not draw the sage mode, there was naturally no natural energy to increase observation haki. But Lee Luo drew observation haki. Since chakra can be split into armament haki and conqueror haki, then observation haki, which is natural energy, can't be directly reversed into natural energy. As long as he combines observation haki, armament haki, and conqueror haki, he can extract the sage chakra that can increase strength and speed several times and open the sage mode. Thinking of this, Lee Luo's face was already filled with ecstasy. This unexpected gain can definitely increase his strength countless times. Lee Luo was looking at the white spot of shock with a fiery look on his face. System. Directly start the B-level lottery. Lee Luo muttered in his heart. This is only a D-level lottery. He must strike while the iron is hot and directly spend 10,000 points to use up the B-level lottery. Currently has 112,653 shock points. The system is drawing a lottery, shock points -10000. Congratulations on successfully triggering a critical hit and obtaining an A-level item. Chapter 27. Congratulations on successfully triggering a critical hit and obtaining an A-level reward. Bloodline Promotion Card. Bloodline Promotion Card, a one-time item that can promote any bloodline below level A by 1 level. Currently available Bloodline Promotion, Thousand Hands Bloodline. Lee Luo was overjoyed when he saw the Bloodline Promotion card in the system backpack. He really didn't expect that this time he could directly hit the A-level reward. You know, since he started drawing, he has only hit it once, and it was only the lowest level F-level draw. The higher the level of the draw, the lower the possibility of triggering a critical hit. The probability of hitting a critical hit on a B-level draw is about the same as the probability of winning the first prize in a scratch lottery. System uses Bloodline Promotion card. Current Bloodline, B-level Bloodline, Thousand Hands Bloodline. Bloodline Promotion card in use. Lee Luo felt a surge of power in his body. His already surging vitality was strengthened again, and the chakra in his body suddenly surged. Congratulations on obtaining A-level Bloodline, Ashura Bloodline. Ashura Bloodline, the bloodline of the son of the six-path sage Otsutsuki Hago Romo, possesses the body of an awakened sage, and contains a huge amount of physical energy. Lee Luo felt that his body's toughness had soared to a new level again. He took out a knife and gently scratched his arm. A wound was cut and then healed quickly. Unsealed healing. Hashirama Senju's passive, Tsunade's ultimate move. Lee Luo's intuition told him that his Ashura bloodline was purer than Hashirama Senju's. And it was the surge of chakra in his bloodline that made Lee Luo's proficiency in domineering increase again. Conqueror's domineering and armed color domineering are close to the critical point of the third level. With a little training, the armed color domineering can reach the stage of externalization. The strength and attack power of his own domineering will reach a new level. This is really a pleasant surprise. Lee Luo felt the surging power in his body and his eyes lit up. He was originally worried that his chakra would not be enough to support the consumption of Kamui because he did not have the white Zetsu power bank. Now Li Luo has no worries about this at all. After all, the amount of chakra in the Ashura bloodline is much more terrifying than that of Hashirama Senju. After all, Hashirama is only a reincarnation of a part of the Ashura chakra and has reached the super shadow. And the range and power of Ashura's ninjutsu are obviously much more terrifying than Hashirama Senju's true thousand hands top Buddha. The reason why Li Luo's domineering spirit did not enter the third level at this time was purely because of the lack of control over chakra, not the lack of chakra. After all, the entanglement in the second stage and the external release in the third stage are the qualitative differences from the change of chakra attributes to the change of chakra properties. Once the change of chakra properties is mastered, the strength of both ninjas and pirates will be qualitatively improved. Li Luo clenched it lightly, and his arm turned black. He stretched out his hand to hold the previous kunao tightly, and the sharp blade was easily crushed by Li Luo. This finally gives me some life-saving power. Li Luo nodded in satisfaction. Even though he had Kamui before, he could only rely on Kamui space ninjutsu to escape and fool people. Li Luo's defense and attack power have not changed much. Even if he was hit by a sneak attack from a rookie like Hobadai, he might die, so Li Luo was still uncomfortable with this kind of powerlessness. Now it's different. The existence of Haki has given Li Luo the ability to protect himself. At least in the first half of the Grand Line, there are very few enemies who threaten his life. Even if he is still very weak in terms of physical strength, Hashirama's sealless healing and the strengthening of armament Haki are enough to make his strength soar. Of course, if he is attacked without any preparation, Li Luo's weak physical strength is still his shortcoming. But you have to know that the vigilance of the Mangekyo is second only to the Byakugan of the Hinata. Unless it is a top sniper, no one can hurt Li Luo's life. System: consume 100,000 points to draw a lottery. A-level lottery. Li Luo licked his lips that were dry due to being too nervous and said again. Currently has 102,653 shock points. The system is drawing a lottery, shock point -100000. Congratulations on successfully obtaining the A-level item. Shallow Strike. Li Luo was confused when he saw the name. What is that? Then he looked at the item introduction. Shallow Fight, the prototype of Zanpakuto. When its owner writes his own spirit and beliefs into it, it can transform into a unique Zanpakuto. Li Luo frowned deeply when he saw the introduction. How did I get this thing? Li Luo's face looked a little ugly at this time, not because Asada was too weak, on the contrary. Asada was called the strongest Zanpakuto with unlimited development power by Phoenix Hall Master Sword God Namiya Wanjiu. He can evolve into a unique Zanpakuto that best suits the user. But the problem is that the evolution direction of this thing is uncontrollable. No one knows what kind of Zanpakuto this thing can evolve into. If it evolves into a chicken Zanpakuto like Rattlesnake, wouldn't Li Luo be in trouble? Moreover, the combat power of the World of Death God is obviously much higher than that of One Piece and Naruto. With my own strength, it would be so annoying if I evolved a chicken Zanpakuto. We don't ask for Wang Ran's Jinghua Suijutsu Zanpakuto, we can give ourselves a Ryujin Jaka or higher in Meru, the skills are handsome and powerful. Looking at the ordinary Asada in his hand, Li Luo suddenly felt a lot more melancholy. At this time, Nami's knock on the door suddenly sounded. We've arrived. Upon hearing this, Li Luo immediately retracted his Zanpakuto into his body. Forget it, let's try and turn a bicycle into a motorcycle, and a motorcycle into a Land Rover. Chapter 28. Host, Li Luo. Race, Human. Bloodline, Ashura Bloodline. Weapon, Shallow Strike. Technique, Chakra Refining Technique. Talents, Throwing Mastery, Non-Upgradable. Intermediate Swordsmanship, 55/100. Intermediate Taijutsu, 20/100. Intermediate Armament Haki, Entanglement, 7127/10,000. Primary Observation Haki, 517/1000. Intermediate Conqueror Haki, Free Control, 9753/10,000. Skills, Manjiki Sharingan, Single, 3-Body Technique, Duplicate, Substitute, Transformation, Wood Style, Grafting Technique, Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique. Shocking Point, 2653 points. I looked at the panel summarized by the system after the lottery again. The bloodline and domineering changed the most. There was also an additional weapon column. It was obvious that the shallow hit was qualified to be summarized as a separate reward by the system. The weapons and shuriken drawn by the F-level lottery were not recorded by the system at all. After all, those things were just consolation prizes. Li Luo walked out of the cabin and saw Nami standing at the door. The coast was clearly visible at this time. I am only responsible for bringing you to this island. What you do has nothing to do with me. Nami said to Li Luo expressionlessly. Li Luo shrugged his shoulders, indicating that he had no objection, and then took Crick back into the Shinwei space and disappeared. Nami looked at Li Luo who was leaving, and sat on the deck silently. Li Luo's words pierced Nami's heart like a thorn, causing her a dull pain. Although she knew that it was unlikely that Aaron would keep his promise, Nami did not intend to give up this path. After all, the 100 million Baileys were about to be gathered. What Li Luo told Nami that night was actually that he was going to record Aaron's brutal rule in the Konami Islands controlled by Aaron, and to attract the attention of the Navy through the news. It can earn a wave of shock points and gain Nami's favor, so why not do it? After all, the help of the navigator is indispensable when you go to various places to collect materials. Before, you could eat Stussy's soft rice and let her help you collect materials. But Stussy is the intelligence agency CP0 of the world government after all, and she is also the head of the control of Happy Street. No, they might follow him around at any time, and now he is no longer the powerless rookie. His sudden strength may easily arouse Stussy's suspicion. So Li Luo urgently needs a navigator or ship to help him go to sea. Originally, Li Luo thought that after he became a regular employee, he could rely on the news agency's airship headquarters to fly around the world to collect materials. Later, he learned that the headquarters of the news agency are usually hidden in one place and will not fly around randomly. They will only move after their location is exposed. This forced Li Luo to give up the plan of using his old employer to collect materials. Fortunately, Li Luo knew that basically no one could cover up the glory of the Straw Hat Pirates in the major events of this year, and most of the major events were related to this guy Luffy. So Li Luo decided to find a way to allow himself to stay in the Straw Hat Pirates legally. But the first thing to do now is to go to Arlong Paradise. At this time, Li Luo was walking on the coast, stroking his chin and thinking. Suddenly, two tall figures appeared on Li Luo's way. You? How do I get to Arlong Paradise? Li Luo asked without even raising his head. The two fishmen looked confused and subconsciously pointed to a tall tower in one direction. Li Luo nodded. Okay, thank you. The two fishmen were still stunned until Li Luo walked away. What the hell? Do you know him? I don't know him. Don't you know him? How could I know him? Chase him. He must be hiding on the island. Go find him and ask for money to buy his life. The two fishmen who reacted cursed and chased after Li Luo. But they ran for a long time and still couldn't find Li Luo. I saw a ghost. The two fishmen looked around in confusion. In the Arlong Paradise. The wretched-looking Colonel Mouse was excitedly tapping the Bailey in his hand. Brother Arlong, your mind is totally different from that of ordinary pirates. You really understand the ways of the world. Colonel Mouse smiled and stuffed the stack of Baileys into his arms. Haha. Aaron laughed, it's the same to you. As long as you are willing to be my friend, you can enjoy endless sweetness in the East Blue Sea. The fact that you can understand this shows that you are also a smart naval captain. Colonel Mouse was frightened by Aaron's ferocious expression. Really? I'm so embarrassed about that. Looking at the cowardly look of Colonel Mouse, Aaron laughed again. Ha ha ha. Why are you still talking about this now? Harmony brings wealth. Money is really a good thing, more trustworthy than anything else. After saying that, he raised his eyebrows at Colonel Mouse and said in a low voice. Am I right? That's right. Chapter 29. Aaron frowned. Although the mouse in front of him didn't take it too seriously, they had cooperated for many years after all, so he still had to give it some face. Croby, how can you talk like that? Aaron waved his hand and said. Hey? Boss, I didn't say anything. Everyone was startled and turned around abruptly. What they saw was a smiling young man holding a video recording Den Den Mushi in one hand and a camera in the other, smiling at them. Seeing everyone turning around, Li Luo put down the camera in his hand and waved to everyone, Yo! Everyone! Oh my god! Who are you? Colonel Mouse was also stunned when he saw the surprised fish people. You don't know him? Aaron looked at Colonel Mouse strangely and asked, Why? You know him? Colonel Mouse grinned in pain. I don't know him, I just saw this guy say something to your gatekeeper and walked in openly, I thought he was one of yours. At this time, the two fishmen guarding the gate waved their hands at Aaron. Brother Aaron. This is from the news agency. I heard that he wanted to interview you about your glorious deeds, so I quickly let him come over. He also said that he wanted to restore the reputation of the Fishman Empire. Listening to the excited shouting of the gatekeeper fishman, the mouse colonel on the opposite side almost vomited a mouthful of blood. Damn you, a news agency. You trademark are stupid. If you, a bunch of pirates, have a few glorious deeds, let alone the Arlong Empire, they will be exposed. Arlong Paradise can be instantly transformed into Arlong Cemetery. Do you really think that the East Blue Sea is a symbol of peace? The reason why he has lived peacefully for so many years is purely because Garp does not pass by here when he returns to his hometown. And someone in the headquarters wants to give face to Jinping through Arlong, so this matter has been suppressed. Otherwise, with Arlong's strength, let alone occupying this place and staying here peacefully for 8 years, occupying it for 8 days would be considered awesome. But now you actually let reporters in to interview the report that you are colluding with the Navy. You trademark are stupid. And Arlong obviously knew this, he was not a fool like Zioba. He saw his face change, waved his hand at Krobi, Aju, and other educators and said, "Catch him for me." Li Luo smiled when he saw this. Why are you so anxious? Aren't you going to form the Along Empire? I'm just helping you with publicity. This is a good thing. Aaron's face changed, and he snorted coldly looking for death. The so-called Aaron Empire is just an excuse to collect money from the stupid humans in Coco West Village. The reason why he did this was to avenge those humans who killed his elder brother Fisher Tiger. His strength was not enough to avenge humans in the Grand Line, so he ran to the East Blue Sea to torture these weaklings. At Aaron's signal, the tall and strong fishman rushed directly towards Li Luo. A reporter dares to challenge our great fishman. Along sneered at Li Luo who was about to be drowned. He was ready to torture this ignorant human. However, just when the fishmen were about to catch Li Luo, the space around Li Luo suddenly twisted. A strong man in alloy armor suddenly appeared out of thin air. What? How did this person come out? Aaron and the others looked at the sudden appearance of Click in shock. Click's cloak suddenly wrapped around himself and Li Luo, and then instantly turned into a ground spike covered with sharp spikes. Sword Mountain Cloak. The fishmen who rushed over immediately howled and retreated, their bodies bleeding from the thorns. At the same time, all the gaps in Click's weapon armor opened, and countless machine guns and cannons fired in all directions. For a while, gunshots rang out everywhere, and many fishmen at close range were shot into sieves. Fellow fishermen. Aaron's eyes were about to burst when he saw this. Unlike Hody Jones of Fishman Island, although Aaron hated humans very much, he regarded his fellow fishermen as his own brothers. Now that several fishmen were killed as soon as they met, Aaron was completely furious. Click, click. The sound of taking pictures came from the other side this time. Li Luo smiled and held up the camera and said sarcastically. It's so pitiful. You can't even make sashimi, right? Who are you? Aaron stared at Click and asked. Click, who was hypnotized, naturally would not answer Aaron's question. Instead, Li Luo smiled and said. I said, I'm a reporter, this guy is the pirate Admiral Crick, someone heard that you are more powerful than him, the overlord of the East Blue Sea, so he decided to challenge you. Aaron's face turned pale when he heard this. Fighting between pirates is normal, and he didn't doubt it. After all, this kind of fighting on the Grand Line is very common. But this doesn't mean that he can tolerate someone killing his compatriots. Go. Kill them. Aaron waved his hand, and the fishmen of the dragon pirates rushed towards Click and Li Luo again. Hey, when two armies are fighting, reporters should not be killed. I'm just a small war reporter, don't look for me. Li Luo spread his hands innocently, then slammed his hands on the ground, would release, hell's chaos. In an instant, the terrifying thorn forest composed of dozens of grafting techniques directly skewered the fishmen within a 5-meter radius of Li Luo into fish skewers. Chapter 30. Brothers. Aaron's eyes were bloodshot as he looked at the bloody jungle around Li Luo. The blood of the dying fishman dripped down the branches and onto the ground, which looked particularly strange. Colonel Mouse was so frightened that he sat down on the ground. You are looking for death. Aaron roared loudly, and rushed up with a gloomy face. However, a big gun came from behind and hit Aaron hard. Boom! A violent explosion sounded, and Aaron flew backwards. The big gun weighing 1 ton, combined with the explosion of gunpowder inside, directly smashed Aaron into the wall of Aaron Paradise. Brother Along. Krobi and Aju looked at Along in the ruins in shock. The 8 years of domineering in the East Blue Sea have made them forget the pain of being hunted by humans. They boasted so much that they even believed that fishmen were creatures superior to humans, and completely forgot how miserable the Sun Pirates were. They were just a group of poor guys who only dared to drool at Shabayati Park. And Click's shot woke them up directly. Li Luo sneered at the shocked fishman. He was the only one who knew his strength is actually seriously underestimated by many One Piece fans. Because this unlucky kid was so miserable. He was attacked by Hawkeye right after entering the Grand Line. He finally escaped back to the East Blue Sea and was starved for who knows how many days and was dying. He was exhausted. However, due to his arrogant character, he chose to fight Luffy in full condition with that tired and weak body. The result was of course horrible. However, if you look closely at the details of the battle, you can clearly find that the reason why Crick was defeated was all because of Luffy's ability of the Nika fruit. The strength of Crick, one is his luxurious equipment full of weapons, and the other is his terrifying power. He can easily handle a 1-ton war gun. This talent is completely useless against Luffy, who has the dual series fruit ability. Because he has not yet learned Haki, his terrifying power can't cause any harm to Luffy. Luffy's rubber ability is naturally the nemesis of this kind of blunt attack. If it weren't for Luffy's super recovery ability of the Nika fruit's animal ability and ignoring the blunt attack caused by huge force, Luffy would have been dead on the spot. In the end, Luffy won by relying on his high blood skin defense and fast blood recovery. Even though he was so human, Luffy was unconscious for a long time after the battle. Today's fishmen don't have Luffy's cheating vitality. Click wielded the war gun, and as long as it hit the fishmen were instantly killed on the spot by the terrifying power and explosion. The attacks of the fishmen seemed quite powerless in front of the super alloy armor that even Luffy needed 2 rubber rockets to break. The swords and knives couldn't even make a scratch on the armor. A bunch of stupid beasts. The strongest equipment plus the strongest power is the strongest force. Crick's red eyes were stimulated by the blood and his blood was boiling. Those fishman pirates who were far superior to ordinary human pirates were no match for him. What made the fishman soldiers most difficult was Crick's endless weapons. Machine guns, armor-piercing bullets, bombs, flamethrowers. These may be just a side job for the strong. But facing the fishman pirates who were also minions was simply terrifying. Countless fishmen were beaten horribly by these enhanced weapons. For a time, the dragon pirates suffered heavy casualties. Li Luo smiled evilly. The scene of people taking photos with cameras in their hands seemed particularly strange on the battlefield. Even if some fishmen wanted to attack Li Luo, they were pierced by the terrifying wooden spear that was as sharp as a blade. No one dared to look for this strange man again. Krobi looked at Click, who was killing everyone with a sullen face and had no way to deal with him. Even if he faced this powerful man on land, he was still no match. After all, the fishman's home court was in the sea. At this time, Aaron climbed up from the ruins, and the blue veins on his forehead were exposed one by one. Humans are simply a powerless, incompetent, and stupid race. How dare you! Aaron roared and pulled out a large saw blade from the weapon rack beside him, Zhang Feng, and rushed directly towards Click. Click sneered and swung the 1-ton war gun at Aaron again. However, this time it was not as Click thought, and a terrifying force came from the war gun. The huge saw blade directly broke the gun barrel, and then smashed it hard on Click's alloy armor. Nanny! Crick, awakened by the pain, felt the huge force coming from the armor in horror. Cracks had already appeared on the alloy armor. How dare you! You actually killed my compatriots! Aaron shouted angrily, opened his bloody mouth and bit Crick's neck fiercely. Before Crick could react, Aaron's terrifying bite force instantly bit off his neck. For a moment, Aaron held the silent Crick in his hand like a demon, and turned his head to look at Li Luo fiercely. Li Luo narrowed his eyes slightly. Sure enough, although Crick was not weak, his overall strength mainly relied on his equipment. Once he met Aaron, who was more powerful than him, his advantage was gone. You know, Aaron can overturn a 2-story building with his bare hands. Even a wooden building weighs at least dozens of tons. So although Crick is strong, he is still far behind Aaron. It's no wonder that Joseph said that Crick's strength is much inferior to Aaron. But Li Luo didn't come here to destroy Aaron's paradise this time. Looking at Aaron who wanted to eat him, Li Luo smiled. Not bad, exciting, the East Sea Overlord versus the Sun Pirates, Arlong, I think there must be a lot of people who want to watch it. As he said this, Li Luo's figure looked distorted. You still want to run? Aaron roared and rushed towards Li Luo. However, as the space twisted, Li Luo smiled evilly and entered the Shenwei space. Only a sneer and the corpses of the dragon pirates were left on the ground. Aaron's big saw blade missed, and he stared blankly at the disappeared Li Luo. Then his angry roar was heard from a long distance. Chapter 31. Shortly after Li Luo left, Nami walked towards Arlong Paradise with a backpack on her back, expressionless. Get out of my way. A little boy with tears in his eyes ran over from behind with a knife in his hand. I'm here to kill Aaron. My father was killed by Aaron, if you don't get out of my way I'll kill him too. The little boy trembled and roared at Nami. Nami reached into her dimensional breasts expressionlessly, suddenly took out 3 sticks and swung them, and the little boy was instantly knocked out. Aaron doesn't have the time to play with a kid like you. Go back if you understand. Nami threw hundreds of thousands of Baileys at the little boy and said. If you know, take this back and protect yourself. After saying that, he ignored the boy's pain and walked straight to the inside of Arlong Paradise. The boy could only lie on the ground and cry in pain. Nami, who walked into Arlong Paradise, was stunned. At this time, Arlong Paradise was in a mess, with holes caused by bullets and bombs everywhere. More than a dozen fishmen lay on the ground without a sound. Arlong was held tightly by a large group of fishmen including Krobi. I want to kill people. I want to kill them. These stupid humans. Brother. Don't do this. We followed you out thinking this day would come. Those people are our cash cows. Don't you still want to build the Along Empire? We just killed Agosa town, we can't kill any more. The angry Along dragged 7 or 8 fishmen back and forth like crazy. Under his feet lay the miserable leader Crick, and he would whip his corpse to vent his hatred even if he died. What happened? Nami looked at the scene in front of her in shock. Aaron and others looked over at the same time. Aaron's eyes flashed a fierce light, and then he calmed down. If he wanted to dominate the world, Nami's talent was indispensable. With Nami's sea chart, he could manipulate the reefs in the sea to create shipwrecks at will. So even if Aaron was angry at this time, he would not turn against Nami. Aaron kicked Click under his feet and sneered with sharp teeth. Nami is back? It's nothing serious, just someone who didn't have eyes to provoke me. Look, this is the result. Nami looked at the miserable Click as Aaron pointed. She was so frightened that she took 2 steps back, her face full of horror. Didn't Li Luo say he was going to interview secretly? How did he come here to interview? This idiot. Nami's face was livid at this time, and her heart was in great pain. In her opinion, if she hadn't brought Li Luo back to Coco West Village, he wouldn't have died here. In Nami's opinion, Li Luo's fate must be the same as Click's. After all, since Aaron is fine, it means that Li Luo is in trouble. Aaron's character will not let the enemy escape. Looking at the terrified Nami, Aaron showed a sneer on his face. He asked hypocritically. This trip took a bit long, how was it? What did you get? Nami shuddered and pretended to be calm as she threw the bag of Bailey on the ground, suppressing her fear and smiled. Not bad, I made some money. There are too many fools who fall for it so easily. Ha ha ha. Aaron laughed. Betrayal is your specialty. How about this? In order to punish the villagers for rebelling against me, I decided to double the monthly payment this month. How about this? Are you very happy? Nami's face changed drastically when she heard this, and she excitedly retorted to Aaron. Wait a minute. Didn't we just collect the tribute this month? Why do we need to collect more? And this guy is obviously a pirate, why is he blaming the villagers? Aaron's smiling face suddenly darkened, he looked at Nami with a grin and said. Maybe he was sent by the villagers? You can also let them resist and see. Nami was frightened by Arlong's appearance and retreated again and again. At this time, she remembered that the guy in front of her was the most brutal fishman pirate in the East Blue Sea. Nami roared unwillingly in her heart. Damn it, I just can't trust that guy. She silently kicked the bag of Baileys in front of Aaron, at least 1 million Baileys. Then she walked into the tower where she had been imprisoned for 8 years. Aaron sneered at Nami's back and said to himself. Humph. Don't think that just because a long paradise was attacked, someone can challenge my authority. Nami shook her body twice and walked in silently. On the other side, the crying little boy got up silently. He glanced at Bailey on the ground and was ready to turn around and walk away with a sneer. But a few minutes later, he turned back to Bailey and held Bailey in his arms while crying. Finally found it. Suddenly a voice gave the little boy a startle. Who? The little boy nervously grasped the long knife that came from nowhere. A vortex appeared, and Li Luo's figure slowly appeared. Chapter 32. In the ruins of Goza town. Li Luo held his camera and kept pressing the shutter at the ruined town. The upside-down houses, the mooing furrows of sea beasts, and the bloodstains scattered everywhere that had not been cleaned up were enough to illustrate the brutality of the dragon pirates. A little boy behind Li Luo clenched his fists and looked at the scene in front of him with a ferocious face. It's useless to be sad. Instead of going to die, it's better to accumulate strength and take revenge when you are strong enough. Li Luo sensed the malice behind him and said calmly. You can't kill the enemy with anger. The little boy was speechless for a moment after hearing this, but that's a fish man. Just because one person rebelled against the fishman, everyone in this town was killed. The little boy lowered his head and stopped talking. Li Luo put away the camera and smiled at the little boy, comforting him. I know someone whose mother was killed by the fishman, so she decided to join the fishmen and save money for 8 years to buy the village ruled by the fishmen. The little boy's eyes widened when he heard this. How is it possible? They are fishmen. How could they agree? Right? I don't think the fishman would agree, but she did. At least she didn't give up hope. Sometimes choosing to live is more painful than dying. Li Luo turned his head and looked behind the ruins of a house. Am I right? Nakago. At this time, a blue-haired tattooed girl wearing a vest and trousers and flip-flops walked out from behind the house. How did you know that? Nokijo frowned and asked Li Luo. Li Luo extended his hand without hesitation and shook hands with Nokijo and said with a smile. Li Luo, a reporter from the news agency headquarters, came here to expose Aaron's long-term brutal rule over the Konomian Islands. Nokigo looked at Li Luo in confusion. What the hell? Reporter? The little boy added excitedly behind him. He came to expose the scandal that Arlong, as a pirate, had ruled the Konomi Islands for so many years and no one cared. As long as the news gets out, the Navy will definitely send experts to capture him. Moreover, someone in Argosa town has contacted the Navy, and the Navy has promised to rescue us. Looking at the excited little boy, Nakago was not happy, but frowned. The Navy has come here in the past 8 years, but no one dared to attack Aaron. More than one village was destroyed, and someone had contacted the Navy, but the results were all in vain. The people in Kokoyasi village have long been disappointed with the Navy. Everyone is just waiting for Nami's result. As if seeing Nakago's concerns, Li Luo smiled at her. I am a columnist at the headquarters, and my influence is incomparable to those branch reporters on the island. A gleam flashed in Nokijo's eyes. Really? Of course. Li Luo laughed. First of all, I need you to tell me about Aaron's brutal rule over the years. Nokigo seemed a little excited at this time. She nodded repeatedly and pulled Li Luo towards the Koko West village. It's not easy to talk here, come home with me and I'll talk to you. At this time, a black shadow blocked Nakago's way. When they looked up, they saw a huge fishman blocking their way. I didn't expect you to want to expose brother Aaron. It seems we are too kind to you. Nakajo and the little boy looked at the giant fishman who was almost 3 meters tall with an unpleasant expression. It's over, we've been discovered. The fishman turned his head and looked in the direction of Li Luo. Reporter? I think you don't want to live anymore. How dare you report the news here? Li Luo looked at the fishman in front of him with sympathy as if he was looking at a fool and asked. You haven't returned to A Long Paradise yet. The fishman was stunned and said with a proud smile. How do you know? I'm the puffer fishman in charge of coastal patrols. You're unlucky to run into me, kid. However, just as he finished speaking, a wooden thorn pierced his chest directly. Ah! The fishman screamed, spitting blood and fell to the ground. Nakago was shocked. He looked at Li Luo in shock and said solemnly, you killed the fishman. Li Luo spread his hands innocently and said. As a war correspondent, you must have some means of self-defense, right? Nokijo said helplessly, do you know what the consequences of killing fishermen will be? Li Luo looked at the nervous Nokijo and comforted him. Don't worry, Aaron won't survive tomorrow. Nokai rolled his eyes wildly, ran to the dead fishman, and pulled the fishman's legs hard. What are you doing? Destroy the corpse and eliminate all traces. Li Luo's mouth twitched twice. He had underestimated the villagers' fear and hatred of the murlocs. He pulled Nojigo aside and quickly formed seals with his hands. Fire style, great fireball technique. In the horrified eyes of the little boy in Nakago, a huge fireball immediately enveloped the fishman. 2 seconds later, not even ash was left of the fishman's body. The little boy's eyes instantly lit up. Uncle! Please help us kill the fishman. Li Luo patted the little boy's head with a sad face. I'm a reporter, the kind who can't even tie a chicken. Nojigo and the little boy looked at the fishman who was left with nothing but a trace of dirt with a blank expression on their faces. I don't trust you. Chapter 33. Shock. The symbol of peace in the East Blue Sea? A scam by the Navy and the 7 warlords of the sea. The next day, a report was spread to the whole world in the newspaper. In the marshal's office in Marineford, Akainu angrily slammed the newspaper on the table. Shame! Shame on our navy! Akainu was extremely angry when he saw the wretched rat colonel and the arrogant Arlong on the news. This kind of garbage should be turned into ashes. It tarnishes the uniform he is wearing. Sengoku looked at the news in the newspaper with an ugly face. The news narrated from beginning to end how Arlong came to the East Blue Sea 8 years ago and ruled the Konomiya Islands for 8 years. During this period, he exploited more than 20 towns inhumanely and killed the retired Navy bellmare who insisted on his business. And Li Luo also attached the inspirational story of 10-year-old Nami, who endured humiliation and was forced to join the Arlong pirates, and how she wanted to redeem Coco Village as a child. And Li Luo also implicitly stated that Arlong was a member of the former Sun Pirates, and behind him was Jinbei, who was one of the 7 warlords of the sea. When Morgans received this news, he immediately decided to increase the size of Li Luo's column and put the entire report on it. For a time, the whole pirate world was completely blown up. The East Blue Sea is known as the weakest sea. However, this is the title given to the East Blue Sea by the pirates. Compared to the civilians in the pirate world, the East Blue Sea is a symbol of peace. The average bounty of the entire East Blue Sea is only 3 million berries. All the people in the pirate world hope that they can live in the East Blue Sea. However, at this time, an article by Li Luo directly triggered the world's discussion on peace. The Navy actually colluded with pirates to exploit and rule the island. The pirates occupied the Konomi Islands for 8 years, and the pirates not only did nothing but also accepted the benefits given by the pirates. The countless calls for help in the past 8 years have become a good place for the Navy to eliminate dissidents. Those real Navy officers all died in Arlong's hands? Arlong can do whatever he wants because he has a brother who is one of the 7 warlords of the sea? For a time, the civilians in the entire pirate world went crazy. Everyone rushed to the naval base and started throwing eggs, and many people protested and marched to demand an explanation from the world government. Punish Arlong severely. Isn't it said that the East Blue Sea is a symbol of peace? Is your peace to imprison us and hand us over to pirates? A few days ago, a Hobadai was exposed, and now a mouse kernel pops up. Give us an explanation. Is the money we pay every year really just going to waste? What is the meaning of us becoming a member country? Are we going to watch your navy, the world government and the pirates exploit us? Such a poor little girl. She was only 10 years old. She was forced to join the pirate group and go out to sea to steal money to redeem her village. That box of treasure is all covered in blood. How could you, the navy, be so cruel? Even so, she only attacked pirates and never stole from civilians. It's so pitiful. Poor female navy who retired, she raised such an excellent daughter but was brutally murdered. At this time, not only ordinary civilians, but even the navy was in an uproar. They felt that their beliefs were impacted. They fought pirates with all their lives, but were brutally murdered after retiring and had no place to seek justice. For a time, countless indignant navy officers asked for leave and wanted to go to the East Blue Sea. If your superiors don't care, we will go and help ourselves. Zhang Guo was overwhelmed by all these leave requests. The most difficult thing for him was that someone from the headquarters must have intervened in this matter. A mouse kernel alone could not do such a holistic thing. The biggest advantage of pirates lies in their mobility, and flexible pirate ships can escape the pursuit of naval warships. But no pirate has ever dared to arrogantly occupy the land and become the king. Those big pirates retire at most to live in seclusion and dare not act violently. Reveal your whereabouts. It is incredible that Aaron has been directly entrenched in the Konomian Islands for 8 years. After all, the naval branch that the civilians of the Konomian Islands seek help from is not only the branch of Colonel Mouse. There must be someone above who is suppressing Aaron. The East Blue Sea, which is a symbol of peace, has such serious collusion between officials and thieves, which directly made the world's public opinion boil. The initiator of such a big public opinion was looking at the background data of his system with a smile on his face. Even he did not expect that such a post from the Black Navy would cause such a big response. Although the shocking point is not as large as the last Hawkeye headline. But the data of +1+1 has never stopped. At this time, No Kai Gao beside him asked Li Luo with a worried look. Is this really okay? Will this liberate the village? Don't worry, I have already told the headquarters to stop publishing newspapers in the Konomian Islands. The information here has been disconnected from the outside world. You just have to wait for Aaron to be purged. Li Luo said happily. Looking at the number of shocking points, you can tell how much of a response it caused. For such a serious incident, Li Luo would never believe that the Navy headquarters did not take any action. However, even if he didn't expect it, this action was really too big. Chapter 34. In the village of Kikyoksi, Aaron led a group of fishmen and walked on the street like a bully. We fishmen are the evolved form of humans with the ability to breathe in the sea. This ability alone makes them far superior to these stupid humans. We, who possess abilities that surpass those of humans, are the most intelligent creatures in the world. To disobey the fishman is to disobey the laws of nature. While preaching his theory of fishman's bloodline, A Long had people collect rent in the village with sacks. Agi unclenched his brows and clenched his teeth. Didn't we just collect this month's rent? How can we afford to pay another month's rent? The fisherman sneered and said. If you want to blame someone, blame the humans for wanting to resist us fishmen. Humans have committed a crime, and all of you will be implicated. How could this happen? Some villagers couldn't help but pick up farm tools in anger and wanted to fight. All the weapons in the village were confiscated by the dragon pirates. They could only use these things to resist. Aaron looked at the villagers who walked out of the room one by one with interest and sneered. What? Do you want to resist too? I don't mind giving you a ride, just like I did to Gosa town. Everyone's face was distorted, staring at this group of fishmen who were bullying others. Only Ajian, who still had some sense, shouted at everyone. Stop it! Do you want to waste all our efforts? We have been waiting for so many years. We don't need this little bit of time. All the villagers' hands holding the sticks slowly loosened, and all of them had unwilling expressions on their faces. Behind a house, No Kai Gao looked at Li Luo with an unpleasant expression and asked. What are the rebels he mentioned? Li Luo touched his chin a little embarrassedly. I guess you're talking about me. Hey! No Kijao grabbed Li Luo's collar and said in a low voice. Hey! You know how hard it is for us to pay that huge amount of money every month. Those who have just paid don't have the money to pay again. Many people will be killed. Li Luo smiled and stretched out his hand, and a suitcase suddenly appeared in his hand. Don't worry, problems that can be solved with money are not problems. No Kai Gao was stunned when he heard this, and opened Li Luo's suitcase in surprise, and found a box of large denomination banknotes neatly placed inside, at least tens of millions of Baileys. Is being a reporter so rich? No Kai Gao looked at Li Luo in astonishment. I don't know about others, but I'm so poor that I only have money left. No matter what level of lottery Li Luo draws, there will be some Bailey mixed in. The lowest level F lottery is 5,000 Bailey. The amount is multiplied by 10 for each additional level. Li Luo discovered that this thing is as common as thank you for your patronage. I didn't win the lottery before, it was just a matter of luck. I tried to spend some money again, but the Bailey in the system warehouse was really considerable. You can use this money to pay the ransom. But this time, Aaron is killing a chicken to scare the monkeys. Even if you pay the ransom, they will not let you go. That's better than now. Nochigo took the suitcase and ran out. Wait a minute. She shouted at the fishman, here is the money of our Kokoyasi village. Everyone looked at Nakago in astonishment. One of the women frowned and ran to Nakago's side and whispered. Nochigo, this is not what Nami saved. Nochigo hurriedly comforted him, don't worry, it's not. She threw the suitcase directly to Aaron, take your money and leave this village. Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly, and Kroby stepped forward to pick up the suitcase and opened it. Seeing the neatly arranged banknotes inside, a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. Aaron narrowed his eyes and looked at Nojigo. Could this be the treasure that Nami hid? At this time, he already had a plan in his mind. Ha 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 ha. Aaron put away his suitcase and laughed. Wouldn't it be better if we did this earlier? Long, will never break my promise when it comes to money. After saying that, Long led the fishman and turned around to walk towards Long Paradise. Li Luo, who was behind the house, was extremely surprised. He didn't expect that this guy would actually go back. He originally thought that Long would take advantage of Aegean's hidden knife to make trouble again. Seeing the fishman leaving, the villagers breathed a sigh of relief. But then everyone surrounded No Kai Gao. Xiaonyo, how could you use Nami's money to pay us? That is to say, that is the money that the child has saved for so many years. I think there are at least several million baileys in the handbag. That will require Nami to go out to sea many times. Instead of thanking Nakago, the villagers blamed her because they had already put life and death aside. They were just waiting for the day when Nami wanted to leave, and then they would go to fight with Long. If it wasn't for Nami, they would have gone to fight with Long a long time ago. Chapter 35. Nojigo hurriedly explained to the villagers. Don't worry, this money is not Nami's, and Aaron and the others will soon receive the punishment they deserve. Everyone gathered around when they heard this. What's the meaning? Why is Aaron going to be punished? No Kijao looked at the villagers who were safe and sound and breathed a sigh of relief. Do you remember the reporter who interviewed me yesterday? This is the fee for the interview. The villagers immediately became interested. What? Is it so profitable to expose information? Millions of baileys at a time. Good man, when will he come to interview again? If he comes a few more times, can't we help Nami redeem the village? Just when everyone surrounded Nakago, a sturdy figure mixed in with the crowd. Nakago finally sent everyone home and turned to look for Li Luo, but found that he had left the back of the house without knowing when. She frowned and looked around, and suddenly turned back to find a tall figure appeared behind her. Who are you? On the other side, Li Luo, after seeing Aaron and others leave, went directly to the woods where the survivors of Gosa town were hiding. Because according to the plot, the Brigadier General of the 77th branch should have received an order to transfer the refugees. This unlucky child was most likely sent to die, because Nojigo once said that this kind of thing happened more than once. If he did not take the initiative to attack Aaron Paradise, Aaron would never allow any living villagers to leave the Kanamiya Islands. This kind of news of the sacrifice of the navy with a sense of justice will surely create a wave of common hatred, right? At this time, Li Luo's shock point has soared by more than 10,000 points after a day of harvesting. Although it is not as much as the last headline surge, it is enough to make Li Luo overjoyed. Because ordinary people in the pirate world do not have so-called human rights, he thought that the news of the Black Navy would increase by 1,000 this time. Who knew that it would soar by 10 times? Until now, Li Luo can't figure out why so many people read this kind of news that even the big guys are not interested in. At this time, the survivors of Gosa town are waiting on a coast. When the little boy saw Li Luo coming, he waved to him excitedly. Brother Li Luo! Look! The warship is coming! Li Luo smiled and nodded. Really? That's great! However, Li Luo was already wondering what these people would think when they saw the navy ship being sunk. Thinking of this, Li Luo followed the little boy's gaze and looked up at the sea and muttered. These unlucky 77. Li Luo stared at the warship on the sea in shock. How could this be the warship of the 77th branch? A strange-looking warship with a dog's head on the bow was slowly approaching the shore. Damn! How did this great god come here? Li Luo shouted out loud this time. The little boy looked at Li Luo strangely. What's wrong with brother Li Luo? Li Luo patted the little boy's head with emotion. Okay, you can rest assured this time, this damn Aaron will definitely die. The little boy looked at Li Luo with a puzzled look on his face, wondering why he was so sure. Only Li Luo had an excited smile on his face. Big news! The naval hero Garp actually came in person. That's right, the navy that was supposed to be rescued by the 77th branch Brigadier General has now become Garp's headquarters warship with a pug as the bow. However, before he could finish his excitement, the scene that appeared in front of him made him curse out loud. What the hell? This is also possible. What caught Li Luo's eyes were 10 giant warships sailing far above the sea level. Li Luo felt his scalp tingling at this moment, and only one voice echoed in his mind: is this a demon-killing order? That's right, on the second day after Li Luo's news was published, civilians all over the world were furious. The collapse of the East Blue Sea as a symbol of peace directly caused a sharp decline in the credibility of the Navy and the world government. Countless islands launched anti-Navy demonstrations. The Revolutionary Army took the opportunity to use this as an excuse to announce the withdrawal of several liberated member states of the world government and declare independence. For a time, the five elders exploded. They strongly ordered the Navy to resolve this matter in a high-profile manner, and tell the world government's determination and the Navy's force in the form of a full live broadcast. So, Along was very honored to experience the luxurious lineup that Douglas Barrett had felt at the time. Led by Akainu, with 5 vice admirals from the Navy headquarters, and the Navy hero Garp who came a few days ago to deal with him. In addition, with 10,000 elite naval soldiers, they crossed the Com Belt and rushed here. Under the full speed of the most advanced warships of the Navy, the warships of the Demon Slayer Order and the warships of Garp who had come to investigate long ago were brought together. Li Luo looked at this terrifying lineup, rubbed his brows hard, and said incoherently, thinking about Aaron who was about to return to Aaron Paradise. This is like using an anti-aircraft gun to kill a mosquito. How can you be so worthy? In the end, he expressed his feelings.